Welcome to Through the Looking Glass. So today, our guest is Xavier, aka Doc Z. You can go ahead if you want and tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Xavier Spencer. I also am known as Doc Z. Like you said, I've been making music for about 6 years now. Been working really hard to try and stand out from the crowd and create kind of a movement and involve people in something bigger than themselves, which I call the Meds movement. Essentially, we're trying to get people to become more aware of the idea that self-expression can heal them in ways that they didn't really think about before, you know what I mean? So whether that's music, dance, painting, whatever form of self-expression really that they have to heal themselves of trauma, and also not project that onto the other people that are in their vicinity. And the idea is that as you start to transmute that negative energy and put out good, you'll see it come back to you. And if we get enough people on board, we can create this environment among one another that's a healthy, safe environment, you know what I mean? Rather than coming home, say you had a bad day at work, right? I'd rather come home and write a song or paint something than treat my brother or whoever I'm around like crap because I had a bad day.
When you're treating people good, you become the medicine.
Exactly.
Makes people feel
exactly.
good. So, you said the other thing you were doing with Meds, you were breeding cannabis as well, correct?
Yes, sir. We got a new strain coming out soon called Perfectly Creamed Pie. Yeah.
Okay, I like that. I like that.
So you want to hear the story behind it? My little brother Giovanni, he's actually been doing this for a lot longer than me.
Okay.
And I've always been a little more scientific, and I've done the research on it and kind of handed him down the research in a way that he could understand a little better. And he started with a strain called Sperm Donor, which is basically he didn't know who the dad was, so he had a female plant, and then some guy, he was like, oh, that's a nice plant, but it's a male. He was like, can I have some pollen? He took the pollen, and then we don't know who the dad is, so we call it Sperm Donor. And then a buddy of mine at NY Exclusives had a strain called Perfectly Preserved Pie, which is Chem Dog crossed with Chem Pie. And it's a strain he had been working on for a few years and was like, hey, you want to start something with this? And I was like, yeah. So my brother took Sperm Donor, hit it with the Perfectly Preserved Pie, and now we got a Perfectly Creamed Pie.
I like that. I like that name.
Yeah, I know nothing about this stuff, so I'm hoping to learn a little bit today.
So that would bring me to another question I have, especially for anybody that's listening that doesn't know a lot about cannabis. Explain to people exactly what a phenotype is.
So a phenotype is basically any feature you're looking for. So like with human beings, we have different colored eyes, we have different colored skin, we have different colored beard. So with a plant, you have you've got the purpopheno, you've got different terp profiles, which a terpene is basically the flavor profile of it. You know what I mean?
So they're genetic traits.
Genetic traits. Yep. Yeah, so that's the best way to put it.
Because like out in Oregon, we saw for the first time, this is where I actually really learned a little bit about phenotypes. Like we saw places that had two of the same strain, but different phenotypes of that strain, where they'd have either a slightly different look, different taste or smell. So
really, we're working on what makes a strain more consistent is really developing that pheno. So you might have to hunt hundreds of them at a time, pick your pheno, and then isolate that phenotype, so that way you can consistently recreate that pheno, and eventually you can get to the point where you're doing clone only phenotypes. So like once you've got it down, you're like the only person who has it after a certain point, because you've taken the time to make that specific pheno. You know what I mean? And my little brother takes his time with, he smokes. I don't smoke, I'm not gonna lie anymore, because it makes me paranoid. But there was a time when I smoked a ton, but he's the connoisseur with that. So he does that, and I do more of the scientific stuff.
Okay.
Behind it.
So what would be your favorite creation or crossbreed or phenotype?
My favorite, I like purples. I just like if I was gonna smoke again, I'd smoke a purple because I like a nice chill
Mm-hmm.
vibe. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to be like. I like the psychedelic effect here and there, but I like more like a I'm gonna smoke a little bit, relax, go to sleep kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. You know what I mean? Like the old school stuff. Nowadays, I smoke. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, I've gotten high exactly one time in my life, and the relaxation was fantastic, but the wah 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 in
Mm.
my head, that I did not like.
Yeah. So, and that's kind of what we're.
But those were edibles.
Oh yeah, edibles are no fun sometimes. They're fun, but they're for me they're no fun.
I almost
sometimes.
prefer edibles to smoking, especially now. Like I was telling you earlier, I just quit smoking cigarettes and I'm taking the month off of smoking because it's sober October,
Mhm.
and my lungs feel the best they have since I was like 23. So like I don't even know if I want to go back to smoking, but eating cannabis, that's a different story, man. I love my edibles, that chill feeling.
Mhm.
Although I can say I'd probably want to eat edibles that were made with more indica flower. In
Mhm.
2016, I made a whole batch of edibles, a whole batch of coconut oil, and the buds that I threw in there were all sativa. And it was
Oof.
by far the most psychoactive edibles that I've ever had. It was way more than just that chill feeling. There was one day at Grassroots where I felt like I was starting to get, like those little visuals you see floating in the air on mushrooms or LSD. Like I felt like I was seeing patterns floating in midair. I was like, holy shit, man. I feel like my head's never been in this space from an edible. I liked it though.
Yeah, I think we should talk about that a little. I think a lot of people don't realize just how psychedelic cannabis can be
Oh,
when
yeah.
it's done when it's done properly.
I've gone on what would be considered a level 2 psychedelic experience with cannabis. And it was actually 2 years ago when I did the Sober October. I did a dab
Mhm.
November 1st to come off of Sober October. And it was a good sized dab. And I had a psychedelic experience on the floor of my living room with my dog. My dog just laid in my lap, and it was like I was tripping with my dog. I felt like I became one with him, like our breathing was in tune. And my he's a very anxious dog. So I feel like I almost felt like an animal shaman, like calming him down and relaxing him. And
Mm.
so anyone that says, weed isn't psychedelic, they're definitely mistaken, because it very well can be. A lot of people that smoke a lot and have a high tolerance, they're not going to get those effects because they're so used to it.
Right.
So like if I were to do a dab November 1st after taking this month off, it'd probably be the same thing.
Yeah. So that's the other thing is when your tolerance is a certain level, you're not. It's like it's just like if you smoke cigarettes. If you
Mhm.
smoke cigarettes, eventually the cigarettes don't feel like a cigarette anymore. You're just doing
Mhm.
it out of a habit. So like tea breaks are super important, especially if you want the benefits of cannabis. You know what I mean? I've always been if I'm gonna try something, I'm gonna do it with a purpose. You know what I mean? Like any psychedelic specifically. If you're gonna take the trip, make sure the trip adds value to whatever you're looking at in life. In
Yeah,
a
you're looking for an
spiritual sense.
experience, not just to escape reality.
Right. I'm not trying. I mean, a little bit sometimes, but still, like, what can I get out of this? You know what I mean?
So for other people out there too that don't know a lot about cannabis, would you be able to explain to them like how exactly you create a phenotype, like how you use the male and the female plant to actually crossbreed those? And
Yeah, 'cause
Yes.
I didn't even know there was a male and female.
Yep.
So there's different features on a male and a female. When you're looking at your female, there's like little. They're basically hairs, and you can look it up on Google, like the difference between a male and a female. But a male has sacs basically. You wanna you wanna grow them to the point where you're like, well, you can see the features essentially. When you're breeding, you're not really breeding for weight or anything like that. You know what I mean? You might grow them for a month cycle just to see the phenotype, and then you hunt and select based on that, and then you flip them real quick just to see what you have, whether it's a male or a female, and then within like a couple of days you should know if it's a male or a female, and you'll be able to tell the difference, because the female is what you actually smoke. The male just delivers the pollen, and that's how you end up with seeds. So if you have seeds, a lot of people don't like that in their cannabis, and with the higher end stuff, people aren't looking for seeds in
So
there.
can you smoke
So-
a male, or does it
No, I mean it does produce THC if you've got a good
just
male.
okay? Just
If you've
not
got
to
a
an
good
extent
male-
of there's almost no point in smoking a male.
Yeah,
Oh.
there's no smoke. There's no point. So I mean, yeah, I wouldn't do that. But when I'm looking for a good male, it will produce THC. That's something that people don't really.
Oh yeah,
pay
what
attention
exactly is
to.
a dab? Is it just compressed?
So that's one way you can do it is they have these hydraulic heat presses that you take like your nugget of cannabis and you wrap it in parchment paper, and this heat press comes down and puts a lot of pressure on it, and all the oils that are in the why is the name of them slipping my head?
The
the-
cannabis,
No, the little things that when you look at them,
the THC crystals.
yeah, they look like mushrooms. The trichomes. That was
Trichomes.
slipping my mind for a minute. So like it takes all the oils and even the terpenes out of it, and that's the terpenes are what give it the smell and the flavor, and it comes out in this oil. And when you let it cool down, and like you can put it in the freezer so it gets a little hard, or even just the refrigerator, and it's basically like super concentrated THC.
Yeah.
Okay, so instead
So
of
it's-
smoking the whole thing, you just suck all the
Yeah,
good
so
stuff
like
out of
so
it.
like say you rolled like half a gram of weed into a small little joint for yourself. Doing a tiny little dab is probably like smoking that whole joint in one go.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
for more experienced users. So there's all other different forms that you can use for extracts too. You use some sort of solvent to remove the THC or the trichomes from the plant itself, and then you take that solvent out through a chemical process, usually, a vacuum chamber or something to pull all to help evaporate the
Okay.
like say you used alcohol, you would evaporate all the alcohol, and then you're left with what's left.
Out
And
in
then- but most people, if you want a better like flavorful experience, the presses is the best way to go because you're keeping a lot of things intact.
I like the
normally
flavor
wouldn't.
for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, it actually tastes good.
And
Oh,
another
Oh, yeah.
major thing,
Dabs taste way
I
better.
would not expect that.
another major thing that a lot of people don't take into account when they're trying to grow their own cannabis is that carbon is like major. So like carbon is one of the basic building blocks in life. So what
Mhm.
you're feeding your plant, especially carbon, you get better flavor profiles in the end. So a lot of people use like nitrates, which is
Mhm.
essentially it's telling the plant drink more water and absorb more nutrients. However, because it's going so fast, it doesn't really stick to the plant. So if you use a lot of carbon-based nutrients, you get a better end product. It'll taste better. It'll smell better.
Okay.
It won't have all the PGRs, which is a plant growth regulator. So it's not going to have all this extra stuff in it. You're getting like
And it won't be
organic,
those super
high
dense
quality.
rock hard buds either without the PGRs.
So what exactly does that look like? Just crushing up some charcoal and putting it in the soil, or
that. It can be that. It's there's a product that I stand by. I'm forgetting their name right now off the top of my head, but they're excellent. I wish I knew it. Can I get it? Give me a second. I'll try
Yeah,
to
go
find
ahead,
it.
look it up, man. One thing I was gonna add, like when we were out in Oregon, different solvent extracts they had CO2 hash oil, BHO, which is butane hash oil, and then PHO, which is propane hash oil, and they use those solvents to extract the cannabis. But I've found one of the ways I honestly like it is just through those heat presses. I love having the extra terpenes in there. Like I've had dabs that are like whitish, which are higher in THC percentage, like more in like the 90% range,
Mm.
but they don't taste as good. So I actually prefer the dabs that are down in like the 70 to low 80 percent THC range, but they have more of the terpenes in there, and just I'm a huge sucker for the flavor of a good dab.
Yeah.
oh yeah. By the way, I'm Jesse. I haven't been here yet.
That is correct. This is Jesse, everybody,
I've
our-
been sick
our fourth member of
or just busy the weeks we've done it, but I'll be here hopefully every week.
our fourth member of Through the Looking Glass. Sadly, we don't have Russ today. He is not feeling too well today, so we went on without him.
That was Cultured Biologics, by the way. The brand that
Okay.
I'm using for the carbon based elements, because it's all organic and it's all carbon. So like every every nutrient that the plant needs is attached to a low molecular weight carbon.
Okay.
So that makes it more bioavailable to the plant. And then you've also got like cultures, because your soil is very important too. Like the microbiology
Yeah.
in your soil is super important for how healthy your plants are going to be and stuff too. So like it all plays a big part. And there's another thing that a lot of people don't know is that UVB actually is what tells the plant to create more trichromes, because it's almost like melanin in your skin, right? So like melanin in our skin is designed to protect us from UV light from the sun. And with cannabis, the crystals form as a way to help reflect the sun and the heat from the plant. So when you apply a certain amount of UVB lighting to it, it tells the plant, okay, I've got to create more melanin in a sense, but it's actually the trichromes.
Okay. That's actually
that's a little-
that's actually something new to me. I actually didn't know that one.
I mean, this is all new to me. It's actually quite interesting how much goes into growing weed. A lot of people think you just plant it, you water it, you cut the leaves, and then you harvest. But there's
I know
so
that-
much more.
Well, we do.
I know the
meds, not
soil-
mids.
I know the soil has a lot to do with it
Yeah.
too, correct?
Yeah, the
What type of soil?
Soil's major.
Yeah,
Major.
a dude I work with, he just grew a sativa plant that was like 13, 14 feet tall.
Mm.
That
And
thing was
what
beautiful.
Yeah, what he did was he tilled up the soil where his blueberry bush used to be,
Mhm.
and then took some of that soil over to where he was growing that plant.
Mhm.
And he didn't really do a whole lot more, and the plant still got that big. And we were thinking it was just from the soil that he used. I don't know
Yeah,
if there was
so,
a bunch
like-
of nutrients from the blueberry bush still, or
So like plants create a certain microbiome around themselves in a way. It's really interesting when you get deeper into it. So like there's certain uh, like lactobacillus, for example, is a micro
I know that one's healthy for our gut.
bacteria that's really healthy for plants too.
Mhm.
Yeah. So those things create naturally on the planet for each individual plant, and plants work together to like transfer nutrients between them through roots and things like that. So that's why mushrooms eventually, it's connected, like that has an underground network of how like it's just major. So like mycorrhizae specifically is a fungus that could be used to help the root culture. It helps.
Okay.
They have a symbiotic relationship between the root and the mycorrhizae, because that's like a fungus.
That's also new to me, that you could use mushrooms to help grow the plant.
Now, do you make your own soil, like with compost, or do you get pre?
I make my own stuff, but my brother swears by Coast of Maine because it's just easier. It's expensive that way. It's much cheaper.
What exactly is Coast of Maine?
Coast of Maine has everything that the plant needs. It's specifically designed to grow cannabis.
Okay.
So it's like a really good soil brand that you could use if you're just somebody who doesn't have the time to do all the research and just wants a high quality plant and they're not like trying to make their own strain or
Just
whatever.
growing something for yourself to smoke.
Coast of Maine, yeah, that's a good one.
Now, is he able to buy that somewhere locally, or does he have to get it online?
He gets his online.
Okay.
I asked some of the local shops if they were going to start carrying it, and they said that people would rather make their own because it's just cheaper.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because a bag of that is like, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's not cheap. But that's because they're doing all the work. They've put the time and the research into building the proper setup for the plant.
Okay. So,
essentially.
how long have you and your brother been doing this?
At least 2.5 years now. But we got a little help from my buddy Nix. Actually, he owns NY Exclusives. Been doing it for a lot longer than that, and he's the one who kind of put me on. He was like, "Hey, the meds movement. That's like a perfect way to brand cannabis is meds." So I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. So
Yep.
let's do it." And I'm a hip hop artist, so it kind of fits the bill. You know what I mean? Even though I don't smoke anymore.
Do you have a couple of pictures or like maybe small little video clips you could send me later that I could maybe throw in the episode for people to get a quick little visual of some of the stuff you guys have grown?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I can throw those clips in there.
I'll show you the promo clip of the PCPs. That's short for perfectly creamed pie. It's got some nice purple to it, that PCP, because the sperm donor was an LSD 25 cross with a
So,
random strain.
When
that
you
we
say
found.
LSD, I've come across 2 strains that are abbreviated LSD. One was just called LSD. The other one was Lamb's Bread Sour Diesel.
it's called LSD.
Okay.
LSD 25 by
Okay.
Barney's.
Yeah, I was just wondering because out in Oregon there was also one that was abbreviated LSD, but it was Lamb's Bread Sour Diesel, which is a cross of Lamb's Breath and Sour Diesel.
That sounds good too.
It's the dab pens that I had of that strain were probably my favorite dab pen ever. It tasted so good.
Yeah, so that's kind of what Meds is trying to do too. Is so you know how we have craft beers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Craft cannabis is going to be the way that in my opinion, is going to be the way that the little guys still get a shot. You know what I mean? Because you always got, like, just like with beer, you got your Budweiser, you got your Milwaukee, your
Yeah, the
Miller
bottom
High
of the
Life.
barrel.
You've got your stuff that people drink daily, but then you've also got like your IPAs and like your handcrafted beers. Now we're going to get into a period. This is what the future looks like for me is craft cannabis. Small batches that you get to experience maybe once or twice in your lifetime. You know what I mean? That were specifically bred for the connoisseur. You know what I mean?
Sometimes I think the small batches can come out better because
They do. You
Tending-
have more time.
you're tending to those
you
and
can put
giving
more
those
love
more energy than doing like 24 plants at a time or 48 plants or something
Yeah,
like
something
that.
like Cheech and Chong where they got a whole
Yeah.
underground facility.
So and you can come up with unique stuff too, man. Like I don't know if you ever heard of this strain called Pine Mints by Crane City Cannabis.
No,
It's almost like a menthol-y experience with the cannabis.
that's interesting.
So to get flavors like that, I've heard people like mixing them with like fruit plants, and you get like a hue of banana or something like that. Is that something you can do?
That's not something that I can speak on because I've never tried it.
Okay.
However, usually it's just the terpene profile of the plant. You know what I mean? Really trying to figure out. That's where Gio comes in. I should have brought Gio with me because he would be able to sit down and talk more about the flavor because I don't smoke it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm
that's
more
true.
of a like.
I mean, in the future,
here's
we could
how
always
we're
do a
gonna
follow-up episode too. So
Yeah.
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 And Gio's he's the one who really always had a love for cannabis.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
just the
I've-
older brother who knows like the business side.
Mhm.
You know what
I think
mean?
I've only met Gio once. I think you brought him over with you once.
Yeah, he's a really good dude, good guy, and he's just been helpful to me in a lot of ways just by pushing me to do it. Even
Mhm.
you know what I mean, because it forces you to grow. If you don't got people around you that are really pushing you to grow, then what do you have? You know what I mean? And I have my brother, so
So if you can remember to speak for him, man, I think I forgot to turn that TTLG sign on. But what kind of terpenes or flavor profile does he seem to like the most? Oh, there's a power button on the side there. Yeah.
Gio, he just gave me some. He wants some apple blossom cross with some banana clips that we got.
So he likes fruitier stuff.
He's exploring the fruitier
I like-
stuff now.
I like that really
The
gassy, skunky kind of stuff. There's a lot of cushes that have this like distinct kind of earthy flavor. Like I just call it cushy. That's one of
Yeah.
my favorite flavors.
Yeah, it's got kind of like an earth profile to it.
I was
But-
the exact opposite. When I used to drink, I would like the girly drinks as opposed
Okay.
to like an earthy beer taste. I hated it.
Me too. I'll drink like if I go out and drink a beer, I'll drink a craft beer every so often just because of the experience. because I like to go, oh yeah, I tried that.
Yeah, only during beer pong. That's when I had to.
I like a nice dark beer. Like I'll use Guinness as an example. I mean, I
Some
don't think
draft.
I don't think Guinness is like the best dark beer, but I'll use it as an example because it's at least a mainstreamed one you see on the shelves often. There's a place down in Mansfield, Pennsylvania called York Holo Brew Pub. They make their own beer, and they had, I don't even remember what it was called, but it was one of the most delicious dark beers I've ever had in my life.
And you see what I mean? That's like a small batch. So with the
Mhm.
cannabis, it's gonna be so major. Like it'll be like to a point where if you want a certain strain, you have to go here to get it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because there was only maybe 100 plants of it grown.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then really guarding your genetics is going to be big too, because you've got,
Mm-hmm.
no offense to the guy Copycat, I don't know if you've heard of him. He's taken a lot of the big strains and recreated.
Gelato and runts. I know there's been a lot of people out there trying to recreate that, or fakes going around of gelato or runts strains.
So it's like guarding your own recipes, so to speak, is going to be.
So like you guys wouldn't plan on selling any seeds or clones or anything like that?
Clones for sure.
Okay.
But then people could still take the clone and clone it again, which is fine. However, there would be different price points ideally for stuff like that. You know what I mean? It would be like, okay, I've seen clones go for $2,000 a piece. So
Damn.
yeah, so
Yeah, that's pretty pricey out in Oregon. A lot of the dispensaries you could get clones for like 20 to 50.
Yeah, some regular stuff like maybe like a pineapple kush or something, you know what I mean? But like obviously that would be more like the early. So the idea is to make the money early on so that way you can reinvest. And then as time goes on, maybe like a year or two later, say, okay, we got plenty of new stuff now. Release the rest to the public. Say, here you go. You know what I mean? Just as a gift back to the community who supported us to begin with. Because I've always believed in giving back, no matter what it is that I
absolutely.
do. I've learned throughout my experience now that before I used to think, oh, you give and you expect to get something back. But once you truly internalize that you're giving just to give, holy cow, does your life change?
We brought something up like that similar on our last episode, our spirituality episode, where I mentioned how recently, especially, I've come to notice like service to others or people around me or the community brings a lot more happiness than service to self.
Absolutely. That's what the meds movement is about. Like I didn't realize when I started this thing how many lives I was touching, but like I'm blown up a little bit on TikTok. Not like major. I've only got 2,000 people, but in the last month I've gained 1,000 followers, and it's simply from talking to people and being genuine and present and in the moment with the things that they're going through, and also giving them pieces, like planting a seed, so to speak, that in a way that they realize that the answers are already within them.
So you're not just planting cannabis seeds, you're planting seeds in people's minds.
Yes. Yeah. So the idea is I'm really trying to get people to realize that it all exists inside of them, and that they have more responsibility than they realize. Everything that you sow truly comes back to you. And once you get to the point where you recognize that everything that I'm creating is a result of what I'm putting out in the universe, and you really, really like understand it, you are more careful with how you sow. You know what I mean? And we have a responsibility. That's like with the transmutation. Like if someone goes out and hits my car and I start screaming at them, they might shoot me. You know what I mean?
You never know.
They might shoot. But if they hit my car and I say, hey man, it's just a car. Love you, bro. Boom, I transmuted that energy.
Yeah, my first thing if someone hit me is like, I'm the type, hey, are you okay? Like,
Exactly.
Are you good? Like, I don't care about my car. That can be fixed. Are you okay?
Exactly. Like
Yeah,
that's
that
just a
throws them
small
off guard a
example.
bit.
Although
You're like, no, I thought you were gonna.
that's what's crazy is
throw
though,
fists.
somebody cuts me off inside of my car. I'm losing my shit.
Right.
I'm road raging like a motherfucker. But if I actually ran into them or they ran into me, my whole demeanor would change, because now I'm actually interacting with another human being. So let me start off by being in a more kind, loving vibration, even though something wild just happened.
Right.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to start out hot. Then it's just gonna
Yeah,
escalate. from there.
especially in this day and age, because you never know with people.
Yeah, and so it's also a healthy way to release trauma is self-expression. That's what the meds movement is about, and that's why I got into doing the cannabis too. Growing it is peaceful. Like when you're in there with your plants and you're just vibing, you know what I mean? Like it's perfect weather. You know, you're controlling the environment. It's about like 70 degrees. You know, 75 degrees in there usually.
It's always nice having something in life that brings that kind of peace too, because life can get crazy.
You play a little music. Plants love the music. I know that's something that's controversial.
No, I've always wondered, like, and I've said in the future when I grow my own plants, if this is an experiment you ever want to do, by all means do it and let me know how it comes out. Grow 2 separate plants in the same lighting, same condition, everything, but play them different music. Play one like heavy metal or like really bad rap, and then have another plant that listens to like Mozart and Bach or Chopin.
Yeah, people have done that.
Yeah.
I haven't watched those videos in a long time, but it's wild to see the difference in the plants. One will be withered and one will be twice as big as
even what
plant.
you name the plant. And this ties into Dr. Emoto's work on water crystallization. Like say if you were to name one of your plants like Stupid Bitch or something, and then you named another one like Mother Mary or something more pleasant, they might actually look different just by the names of them and like the things you say to them. Like if you were to say to one plant all the time, like, I fucking hate you, I can't stand you, you're a piece of shit plant, it would probably grow differently and kind of look like crap. Where if the other plant you were speaking to it daily and saying like, I love you, you're such a beautiful plant, I love your look, your smells, I love working with you, I feel like that plant would react and grow differently.
And we're just like plants in that way. We're all a spiritual body at the end of the day, and we're all connected, even if it's through just the air around us. Do you know what I mean? So we all touch the same ground. We're all connected to the same floor. So just like the plant, I've noticed in my relationships, which took a lot of hard looks at myself over the years, and I found that when your words have way more powerful than most people understand. So like developing a filter in my head has been super instrumental too. You know what I mean? So like, just like if you, I'll use my brother for example when we're talking about the plants. If I get a little upset, because we're brothers, we still butt heads on certain things. If I get to the point where I'm like, you know what I mean, cussing him out, then he don't want to talk to me. But if I'm like, hey bro, I love you, let's figure this out, stuff gets moving.
Oh yeah, people respond to positive energy a lot more,
a whole lot better. So that, again, just to kind of wrap it back into the meds movement, it's to say that be as positive as you can. It's not that everything's sunshine and rainbows. It's gratitude for the negative experience and also transmutation of the negative experience to make something positive that goes out, and it will come back to you. It's just how it is.
As bad as negative experience can feel, I often have thought many times that it's our negative experiences that can actually truly shape us in this world.
Absolutely. We grow through pain.
That's a sad reality.
Yeah, but so
also a happy reality when you think about it.
Yeah, because you'll look back and you'll be like, man, I really hated that point in my life.
Yep.
But then you'll be like, oh, I needed that. Look at me now. And like the more you do that, the more that you're grateful during your pain, the less pain you have to endure because you're growing. You know what I mean? But it doesn't stop either. That's the funny thing about life.
Never.
It doesn't stop. It might be like I'm 30 now, almost 30 now. I'm 28. Like the next thing I worry about is like when my parents are gonna die. You know what I mean?
That's a rough one, man.
Then
especially if it's unexpected.
Right. Then you're like now who do I look to? Now I look to me. You know what I mean? And you have to be like the parent. You have to be like the leader. So like that's probably in the future something that will happen that you're never prepared for, but it's something that like it happens in life, and it's one of those things that are going to be painful, and preparing for it isn't possible, but it'll be something that, you know what I mean.
The
I hate to
random
talk about death, but
the random pain from it though can be strange. Like it can be years later, and you know you've dealt with the pain, you've accepted that that person's gone, and
you had a
then
parent pass.
my dad passed in 2020,
I'm sorry,
and
about
it was unexpected too. Like we didn't know he had any health problems or anything, and all of a sudden we didn't hear from him for like 2 days. And my brothers went up there, and they had to actually like kick his door in because it was locked, and he was on the floor, and he'd been probably gone for 24 to 48 hours at that point. But like the random pain is like sometimes you can just be doing something, or like I've been on pizza deliveries, and all of a
Something
sudden
will remind you.
you just get this
Yeah.
strong reminder of something about that person, and that pain just hits. But at the same time as that pain hurts, there's also something beautiful about it too, because you're feeling that pain because of a positive memory. So that's the beauty in it.
Yeah.
And it really helps you appreciate the time you have with your family that's still alive.
Yeah.
So
what was that like? Can I ask, like, what was your meds during that time?
I fucked up. I went back to opiates.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
If I'm being
but you
honest.
got out of that.
I did. I got out. It was about 2 or 3 months where I went back to abusing those, and then realized like, yeah, this isn't it, man.
That's not the answer.
Mhm.
It's not. I started
Because
and
you start to take it out on yourself.
yep,
in that
being in
way.
a bad mood. My mood was real bad. If I didn't have the opiates, then I was in a really really bad mood. So my big meds has just been music most of my life. I'm
Yeah.
what you would call a mellophile,
Mhm.
which is somebody who just almost has to have music playing all the time, which is why I like delivering pizza, because I get to jam out like all night. So.
Me too. And that takes me to something else that I've been working on that's like low key. I've got a playlist called the Meds playlist. I'm gonna do a few different ones. And ideally the playlist is built to make you cry and then build you back up. So it's
Okay.
Oh, that's
it's
interesting.
like it's like you put it on. It's like maybe an hour. Because my goal eventually in 5 years, I want to look back and say the Meds movement was able to create art therapy centers for people who were having trouble with transmuting pain.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? They go here and they do this thing instead of doing something like you said, you went to opiates.
Mhm.
And not that there's anything wrong with that, but gives people a better way to
Mhm.
experience things that are painful. So, what was my point again? I had a brain fart. So ideally, the playlist, yeah.
Mhm.
So ideally, the playlist, I want people to turn it on, jam a little bit, break down, and rebuild. So one of the songs that's on there that specifically is a tipping point for the playlist is "Adventure" by Russ, and it's basically saying you're not lost, you're on an adventure. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
then it builds you up and builds you up back with all this positive music, but it also allows the breakdown.
Sounds a lot like how I set up my playlists for my LSD trips,
That's what I'm
where
saying.
I put a lot of songs on there that I know are gonna invoke emotional reactions or hit a certain emotion in me, or just the sounds or the vibration are gonna make me cry. But then the next song after that is gonna be a song that gets me like hyped up and ready to get over that pain I just released.
Yeah, so transmute, like,
Mm-hmm.
but part of transmutation is feeling it too, because a lot of people avoid their feelings, and then they find other ways to cope with that. And so I've even avoided my feelings with music sometimes, but it also gives me a safe place to put my emotions. You know what I mean? Like if you listen to my
Mhm.
music, it's all attached to some point in my life. You know what I mean? And if you've been around my life or in a part of my life, you'll be able to pick up on different things where you're like, oh, that actually happened. Like, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, yeah, the idea is just to transmute, man.
Yeah,
That's
I never
my
thought
whole
about
mission.
doing playlists like that. All my playlists are, hip hop
Mhm.
for one playlist, and then death metal for one, and then no country. But
I got like hype as fuck, filthy, which is like just filthy dubstep. I got one that's called The Right Vibes, which is just like more mellow, but even some of the ones on The Right Vibes are still a little more upbeat, but it still has like a chill vibe to it. So
Mm.
I've got a ridiculous amount of playlists on YouTube. It's wild. I need to make my own playlist of my own music. I got hundreds and hundreds of unfinished projects on Fruity Loops. My thing is, like, I never learned to mix and master, and that stupid fear in my head that's always told me, well, you'll never be good enough anyways, so I convince myself to just not learn how to mix and master and make everything sound better, because I can come up with different riffs and little ideas all day to make a good song, but mixing and mastering is where I fall short. So that's something I want to really learn to do here in the future, so I can actually put music out that maybe people can listen to. And like, even if I never get famous, I love playing around with music. Again, I kind of stopped doing that. Strange thing they don't tell you about Adderall when you get prescribed it is it can take away the joy of the things you used to do, and music is one of those things. And I'm trying to get back into the joy of making music so I can actually get back and finish so many of these projects and learn to mix and master them and take the time to actually do it and not get discouraged with myself, transmute that negative energy and say, hey, you can do it. Like I posted on Facebook the other day, whether you tell yourself you can or you can't, you're right.
Yeah.
So
you're right. Whether you can or you can't. So yeah, I'm excited too, because there was a time that when I was first starting, we were talking about this podcast, and it's really amazing that you're here now doing it, bro. I'm proud of you.
It's funny.
You talked about it for quite a while.
It took a little bit to get the pieces together, but we eventually just
even
jumped right into
even
it.
years ago, I was telling him I wanted to do another podcast.
Oh, okay.
And it's funny, Erica went back
You
to
spoke it to life.
Yeah, Erica went back.
Isn't that cool?
It is. It is. Erica went back to Domino's, and Russ was just telling her, like, hey, there's a lot going on in the world. I want to talk to people about it. I've been wanting to start a podcast. And Erica was like, oh my God, Adam wants to too. And I used to work with Russ at Domino's when I worked there a decade ago. So I started talking to him and saying, yeah, let's do it. We had a couple other people that were going to be a part of the project, and they kind of disappeared.
Yeah,
so
we had like 4 or 5 other people.
I think we had 6 to start.
Yeah, it was.
So
Let's talk about manifesting a little bit. Since you manifested this, through our words, we manifest a lot.
I don't want to say I manifested it. I've got a weird outlook on manifestation these days, and I think manifestation is partly bullshit.
I think it's the way it's presented.
Yes.
So, because a lot of people think they see these things where they're like, you think it happens. No.
Yep.
That's not the case. If you listen to me, it's not the case.
It's more than just thinking and saying.
You have to align your spirit, your action, and your words.
That's where I fell short in the past, was action.
If you're not taking action towards it, even if it's 10 minutes a day, I'm looking at the camera. If it's 10 minutes a day, take 10 minutes a day to chase your dream.
If
do it.
I can't remember where I heard this, but someone said if you do something for 18 minutes a day, that you'll be better than like 98% of the other people in the world that do the same thing.
Exactly.
And that's only 18 minutes a day.
Yeah, because a lot of people, they'll pick up something and a week later
It's consistency
Yeah.
too.
Mm-hmm.
It's because a lot of people get discouraged halfway through something. They're like, oh, I'm not seeing results.
Me.
You got to detach. The key is detachment from your results.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, it's not always in your head from the very moment, but if you're consistent every day and you're adding to yourself and what your vision is every single day.
Yeah, a lot of people are afraid to fail, so they don't even begin.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
And the fear is, I've dealt with fear. I got on stage in front of 1,000 people before, and that was terrifying.
Yeah,
But then
it's a
when
lot
you-
more than I've ever done.
But when you realize, man, that like they're here to see you, it's like whoa,
Mm-hmm.
what the heck? Like, it's a crazy experience.
I rapped in front of about 100 people 2 different times when I was in Iraq. I performed one of my songs. That's another thing, man. I want to get over my writer's block. I've had writer's block for years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to love writing little raps. And I think I let other people get in my head. Other people tell me, oh, dude, you'll never make it. It's so hard to get in the music industry. You'll never make it.
Who cares? It's detached
Yep.
from the results.
Yep.
I don't care if I make it. I haven't.
Mhm.
Once you align it. So I've found a purpose now. And if I align everything that I do, say, and portray towards that purpose, then I find it's easier because other people want to feel like they're a part of something too.
Mhm.
So that's why I'm creating a meds movement. I'm creating a movement because then people feel unified in something, and you find your lane, and you develop relationships with people who are on the same wavelength. And if they're not, That's fine. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, you don't believe in it? That's fair. There's this person that believes in it, and they believe in me 1,000%. And I'd rather have one of them than 1,000 of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you don't always have to shoot for the majors. There's minor leagues for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm going major, so I believe it.
So since we're on the topic of music and of course meds, when was it you got into rapping and doing hip hop?
You want to know? It was. You remember back when we had those a lot of people our age die from the fentanyls.
Mm-hmm.
So a friend of mine at the time, Aaron Davis, was
remember
like,
him.
"Let's make a song about it." And me and Aaron always had this weird love-hate relationship. He's always been like the guy I love to hate, but then we split it, and then he comes back into my life and teaches me something else. We got like this weird connection, you know what I mean? But he came around and you can probably cut that out of the video.
No, I'll leave it in there, man. We can show him some love. I'll even say like I never really got to know him too well. I only met him once when you brought him over. But those memes that were going around, I love how he ran with those memes and didn't let it get him down.
Exactly, yeah.
So
He transmuted that.
I like that energy.
So, but he was like, we got to make a song about this, and it was the corniest song ever, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
But it got me started. You know what I mean? We had like a lot of views, and even if they were picking on us, I didn't care. They were listening. You know what I mean? And then that's when I realized that, oh, I have something that I want to say. You know what I mean? When I get to the point where I have enough attention, I'm going to spread my message of transmutation.
So that song's floating around on the internet.
I think so. It's on Facebook somewhere. It's called "Don't Do Drugs,"
Okay.
and it was the silliest song, but that's when I really started. He really helped me believe in my ability to do it, and then I started doing it daily, and I still do it basically daily now. There's been times in my life where I stopped because I was distracted and I had the wrong people in my life.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But there's a thing called situational depression. You know what I mean? I don't know if you guys know about that, but
Mm-hmm.
like the people that are around you, the places that you're going, the things that you're doing all play a major role in like how you will progress. You own your own business, so I'm sure that you've gone through like where you've had people that didn't believe in you at a point. They're like, "What are you doing?" And you're like,
To be honest, everything's actually been pretty smooth sailing.
"Oh,
I haven't really had any hardships aside from
you didn't have
bills
somebody
pile
say,
up sometimes, but no, everybody's I've never really had anybody say that I wouldn't be able to do it, or everybody's always been pretty supportive.
Yeah, it's
Sounds
that's
like
interesting.
you've had some good friends though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You've had some good
Yeah,
people.
I've
in
had
your
I've
corner.
sculpted my friend group.
I've had some shit choices and friends in my
well.
life.
Yeah, me and Adam come from
Yeah.
kind of the similar backgrounds where we were. My dad was there, but he wasn't. You know what I mean? My mom was there, but she wasn't. You know what I mean? So it was like we had to. We're kind of learning from scratch. You know what I mean? So it's like, and that's not to say I wish I had it differently, but it helps me out. Like I said before, like being grateful for what you've gone through, and like accepting that that's how it had to happen, so that way you can get where you're going. You know?
Yeah, a lot of the
If
friends
you start at the bottom, you can't go any lower than that.
Yeah, and you'll hit the bottom again a lot of the time.
Yep.
You might start at the bottom, hit the bottom again. You're like, oh shoot, and then hit the bottom again and again and again. And you're like, damn, I'm here again.
I've been
and
there.
then you learn.
I've been there a couple of times.
You know, you're like, when am I gonna learn? I know the answers. They're within me already. I know I'm not supposed to do this or say this or be around this person, but I did it anyway. You know,
That's
We're
why.
human.
That's where sometimes I often wonder, like, if it's our choice to learn, or if there's all of a sudden a set time in your life where everything's just gonna click and you decide to learn. That was our last episode. One of the things we talked about was free will versus determinism. Like, I tried to quit smoking cigarettes so many times and never succeeded. And this last time, I didn't even try. It just happened.
it just happened.
I came down from a trip. I finished my pack after coming down from the trip, and then I woke up the next morning and was just like, I'm not gonna get another pack.
You're like, "Meh."
I don't want to smoke anymore.
I don't care about this stuff.
You know,
anymore.
it's not it's not serving me.
Mhm.
What's weird is I thought my singing voice would get a little better, after quitting, and it strangely got worse for a couple weeks. And now I feel like my singing voice is finally starting to adjust. I'm gonna sing for you sometime.
All right.
I've got some clips saved on my phone and stuff, and I've just never sent them because I'm a big nervous
Send
bitch
'em.
sometimes.
I send you stuff all the time.
Big old
Stuff
nervous
no one
bitch
will ever hear.
sometimes.
You got stuff that people will never hear.
Oh, I'm gonna make sure people hear stuff eventually. I gotta get some of these unfinished projects out. Like I got one on here where I found these voice clips where it's like, can't put me down, can't make me cry. I'm gonna have to show you that one. It's pretty good. It's just I gotta mess with some of the bass and play around with some frequencies. And
Oh yeah. My buddy, he's been doing music all his life, and when you mentioned Fruity Loops, it reminded me. I could probably get him down one of these days.
Who's
And
that?
Chris. I don't know if you know him.
I know like 8 Chris's.
Yeah, I'll get him down, and he's been doing it since since it came out in 2003, 2004, something like that.
Yeah, I think that's around when it came out. I had Fruity Loops like 3 or 4. I downloaded that illegally when I was in Iraq, and that's when I first started playing around with it. But then, of course, I quit playing around with it, and it makes me wonder, like, man, if I would have not been distracted with being the cool kid, there was something in my head where I always wanted to be the cool kid.
Validation.
I've
struggled with that.
And it's like I wasted so much time in my life trying to be the cool kid, doing exciting things and wanting people to just like me, where I should have been like, fuck all these risky activities. I don't care if these people like me. I want to focus on this. And that's kind of where I'm at now. Like even with the podcast, like I stay busy. I get right to editing. Usually all day Tuesday I'll spend editing up
that video
episode. So
yeah,
it's
you just nailed it
focused.
I got a song for you that helped me through that. It's called Enough by Russ.
Okay. I don't know if I've heard of the artist Russ before.
Russ?
I don't think I've heard him before.
Yeah, I don't think so.
You never heard of Russ either?
I don't. What genre of music?
Hip hop.
Oh, yeah. I'm usually like a death metal guy.
Oh, okay.
So I grew up on hip hop, and then got into EDM in the early 2010s, and then it was somewhere around like 2016 I kind of got back into hip hop and rap, and there was some stuff I liked, some stuff I didn't. I'm sad I slept on Anderson .Paak.
Oh yeah.
I heard his freshman freestyle and I didn't like it, and then I heard the music he was making, and I'm like, okay, that's a lot different than his freestyle. I like that. But then all of a sudden it was around like 2018, 19, there was like this dubstep revival.
Mhm.
And since then I have been a huge bass head.
I haven't heard dubstep since Skrillex times. What's a good thing?
Oh my goodness. A couple of my favorites are LS Dream.
LS Dream.
He used to be Brills back in the day, and then he had a spiritual awakening and changed his name and everything.
Mm-hmm.
She's kind of dubstep, but she also calls her style world or global bass. Her name's Closey. She is a musical goddess. Another one I like is Savage, Savej. But then more dubsteppy, Liquid Stranger, Subtronics, man. Subtronics is so different, and he's actually going to be in Buffalo in March, and I might have to.
We should go.
Yeah. So Erica doesn't want to.
I've been going to Buffalo lately.
It's at Buffalo River Works. Erica doesn't want to go, but she's told me I could go if I want to. I need to go up there and just headbang it out for a couple hours because Woolie's going to be with him too, and I do like some of Woolie's stuff.
We should play and go together.
Excision's another big name. Ganja White Knight. I love Ganja White Knight.
I've seen a lot of people. I think you've posted them on, like, shared them on Facebook. I've seen a couple people.
There was
You
somebody
like 'em too?
here.
It's interesting.
There was somebody here one day listening to Ganja White Knight. It wasn't Brad.
I think it was Nick.
Maybe.
Yeah, he told me to put it on.
Yeah. His new album is amazing, and I can't remember who the artist is that does the animation for his videos, but he's created like this whole world in this animation where it like is telling a whole story through all of his music videos, and it's absolutely amazing.
A good friend of mine, Andy Amaker, is doing a lot of stuff with
He's
music
talented,
too.
man.
I know Andy.
He's talented.
Andy's a very talented guy, and guess what he did?
What's
He just went to a writer's retreat with Ryan Montalban.
Oh, did he
Shared
really?
a house with him.
Nice.
I'm so excited for my boy.
I don't know him too well. Like I know him, but I've never really like hung out with him and gotten to talk to him much and getting the chance to know him. But I've
You
heard
guys are very similar.
yeah,
in
I've
your-
heard some of the stuff he's shared online, and he's talented, man. I like his flow. He's got that faster flow,
Mhm,
and with Tech Nine being my favorite rapper
Tech
ever,
Nine's
I
good.
love Tech Nine.
mhm.
I like that faster style of rap.
He's got some new stuff coming after this retreat. I'm really excited to see what he puts
I'm
out.
excited to hear it.
And then I've been really networking with a lot of people. That's been major to my development. Like 3 a.m. I don't know if you've heard of 3 a.m. store, but they're awesome.
I know the store.
My buddy Vinny travels the world. He's worked with Fu and Fu, which is Tommy Hilfiger's daughter. He's worked with Tommy. He's got a lot of stuff going on over there at his skate shop. So I'm plugging people now here.
Networking
and there,
is important, man. That's one of the reasons I wanted to do the podcast too, to network with people.
Yeah.
Um,
What I've transitioned over time because like I said, I grew up like where I had to survive.
mhm.
So it was like, what can I take? Now it's what can I give? What can I offer? And the more I do that, I've noticed that my life is changing.
Mhm.
Just off that, I'm like transurfing realities.
I'm trying to get over that stranger anxiety by networking. It's like people are people, man. There's no reason to be anxious or nervous or afraid of them. And like I said to Russ on the last episode, I had asked him, what do you do to get closer to God? And he said, not really much. I've been disconnected. And I said, well, what about talking to people? I said, if, there's a little bit of God in every single one of us, then when you're talking to people, you're talking to God.
Mm.
So it's like, I feel like the more I reach out and talk to people, that's kind of a spiritual release for me, because it's also going to let me know, hey, there's no reason to be nervous of people or to talk to them. Like, they're not going to bite you. They're not just going to haul off and hit you for some stupid reason. Like, don't be afraid to talk to people.
Yeah, and everybody's a reflection of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool, interesting. But yeah, I can help you with networking too, man. It's just a matter of saying, hey, being vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Hey, if they say no,
Yep.
also being comfortable with rejection.
That's the worst they can do, is say no, and really it's not
All
that
right,
bad.
well,
It's just 2 letters, 1 word.
And then here's the other thing: is there's people that said no to me now in the past that want to say yes to me now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's like why would I? You know what I mean? You were so closed off before.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly you want to be my friend. I mean, but then I'm also a forgiving person too. You know what I mean? So I'll be like, yeah. You know what I mean? Just because I try to transmute that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to try to let my ego live in my reality as much as possible. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I try to keep it in the music. Kind of like Alan used to say.
Have you heard his Psychedelics and Computers album? It's
No,
different.
Haven't heard it yet.
It's different, man. I like it.
Where's it at?
He put it out on Spotify, but he said the version he released of each of the song isn't the final version or correct version, and now he's having trouble getting it taken back down so he can upload the right ones. So he just might upload a whole second one and consider it like a VIP album. Like some of my favorite dubstep artists, like Subtronics, he'll release a song and then he'll do a VIP version that's different.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the same thing but different verses and stuff.
Yeah,
So-
that makes sense. So it's like when Linkin Park did the Reanimation.
Yep.
Yeah, that's sick. And that's another thing. Speaking of Linkin and Park, rest in peace, Chester Bennington. That's something I like to touch on too, is men's mental health
Mhm.
as much as possible. We've got people like Patty, the fighter,
Oh man,
that
Patty.
are starting to speak out for men. You know what I mean? Like, I want
Patty
to
the
also
body.
be that. I want to be someone that people look to and they go, wow, he really helped guide us. Because sometimes life's like a tunnel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we're in this tunnel and imagine we're a moth and we get caught at the light in the middle of the tunnel. Sometimes we need to shut the light off in the middle so that the moths keep moving.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I want to be that for people. Just lead the way, show them what they're capable of. You know what I mean? I try to inspire as many people as possible.
Like
And you guys are doing it too.
like
This
in-
is you guys are early on, but I promise you,
show people
keep
their
going.
show people their power, and like the chorus in one of LS Dream's new songs he just released the other day, where it goes operate from the place of power every moment of every hour, operate from the place of power. He
Mhm.
does that song with Elephant Heart. Elephant Heart's real good too. They're unique.
You have to send me that.
They got a song called Love is the Weapon. It's a good one.
That is a good one. It sounds like a good one.
So I wanted to ask you if you had any plans for like a new album or new music you were going to be releasing anytime soon.
So the only thing that's stopping me right now is an interface. My interface broke. I've got everything that I need to record. I've got songs prepared. My first album is going to be called No Patience because it's kind of a play on words. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I call myself Doc. You know what I mean? I call my listeners patients. My music is meds. It's kind of a little. Some people call it corny. I don't give a shit.
I gotta
Corny is
ask.
cool.
I gotta ask now that I heard that idea. Do you still have that voicemail saved?
I think I do.
That'd be awesome because you said you wanted to use that in a clip of one of your songs.
It's either on. It might be on my other phone though.
Was
But
it a
yeah,
voicemail
I'm
you
glad
sent
you
him or
reminded
something?
me.
Yeah, I called him one time and he didn't answer, and I left a voicemail. I was like, hello, this is Adam Drum. I was calling to get a hold of Doc Z. I needed a refill on my prescription.
Yeah,
It was
that'd be
something along
sick.
those
Okay.
lines.
Yeah. So I do think I have that on my other phone. Thank you for reminding me because I did say I was going to use it and I did intend to.
Yo, that'd be dope to hear.
So yeah, I'm going to call it No Patience. Basically, it's a double entendre. Like I don't have I didn't have patience. And by the end of the album, I want it to be like, oh, okay, he's grown. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I want people to see that development. Because I used to rap about stuff that was like totally mind numbing. You know what I mean? I still do sometimes just for the fun of it because I like the artistry of it. But like I'm really trying to tap into what message I'm portraying because that's part of the movement too. Is like I want to medicate the hip hop game.
Well, you've already evolved your flow too, like because you've always sent me little clips of you rapping, and like just from like how long ago is 2018 now? Holy shit, it's been 5 years.
5
Holy
years.
crap!
That's when I first started.
Yeah, so like your flow from then to now has definitely improved, and it's been a fun little journey watching you improve your flow and everything.
Mhm.
So
And you know what's crazy is I've noticed the most growth when I stop altogether for a little while and come back to it.
Yeah, kind of refresh your mind. I'm the same way with a lot of things.
Like if
Um,
I stopped for like 2 months, didn't do anything at all, and I came back and I was like, wow, I sound way
let your
better.
brain recharge and
Yeah.
I hope
Get
that
fresh
rings
look on
true
things.
for music for me because it's been about like 2 years since I actually really went hard
Mhm.
making music.
And then eventually, what I want to do is carve a new lane. You know what I mean? Like I've taught myself up to this point how to rap like other people. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Take bits and pieces of each, because a lot of people might say, "Oh, you
Mhm.
sound like Eminem." Of course I do. That's one of the people I listened to when I was a kid.
That's
You know
that's
what I
how
mean?
I learned how to sing was
all,
trying
all
to.
white guys sound like Eminem.
Yeah, like it is what it is at this point. And then,
Except Lil Dicky. I like Lil Dicky.
but then I listen to Biggie too, and you'll hear like hints of Biggie's flow.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And then now, what I'm trying to do is take little bits from all these legendary people and create Doc Z. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And then add my own flavor to it,
Mhm.
just to kind of carve my name as something new. You know what I mean? Because to be legendary, you have to be different, but you also have to be talented and respect the people that came before you.
Mm-hmm. That's where I'm trying to find some more confidence singing. I feel like, trying to imitate other people, as you said, is how I learned how to control my vocal cords better. Singing along with Jim Morrison, because the Doors are one of my favorite bands. Back in 2012 is how I got started. But I've come to notice like my voice sounds best singing like rock or rock and roll kind of style music.
Mm-hmm.
But as you said, trying to find your own style, I feel like that's where I'm still struggling a little bit, is learning to put all those imitations together into my own style. And then I got to get over that fear and actually fucking do it.
One thing that I'm working on right now in my development is I'll sing a song and then I'll be like, okay, how can I sing this like me now?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're singing a song, say you're singing, I sing Adele a lot. Be honest, I
Mhm.
like Adele. So when I sing Adele, I don't sound like her, obviously,
Mhm.
but I try to match her tones and stuff like that. Now, when I sing it, I'm trying to say, okay, how can I make this sound like me?
Yeah, once you
Singing
got
a
it down, you can give
rendition.
your own spin on it.
Yeah. So,
There's a fire started in my heart. That's Adele, right?
yeah.
Thought so.
Reaching a
Fever pitch that's
is
bringing me out the dark. Greta Van Fleet does
Her
a
new
good
album
cover of
is
that
sick.
song.
Have you heard it?
No, I haven't.
Her new album is sick. I liked it.
Ooh, what was that?
That was my mic.
But you know who
I've got
else-
bad podcast etiquette
You know who
in
else?
touching that.
Who else inspired me? You were talking about people who inspire you to sing. It was Jim Morrison and a few
Mhm.
others. Who inspired me to really start singing was Ed Sheeran. Have you
Okay.
heard his Orange Room stuff?
I
Where
don't
it's
think
like
that.
live in the Orange Room.
No, I
I haven't
haven't.
heard a ton of his stuff, but the stuff I have heard, yeah, he's so good.
He is
So
really
good.
good, and he's mainstream. And I'm not
Mhm.
really big on mainstream artists like that, but like just his hustle and his story where he was busking, like he's just traveling and just busking like outside.
That's how a lot of
singing
people start.
everywhere he went.
People find him on YouTube or they're in subways, and
Yeah,
the right person, they're in the right place at the right time.
yeah, and then he's just
Become a celebrity overnight.
yeah. It's just a matter of believing in yourself. I think that's my
Mhm.
next step. I've made the excuse that I have a child, and that has kept me from really going out there into the world. But now I'm learning better to manage my time. How can I
Mhm.
manage this relationship, and how can I also chase my dreams? And I've realized that I was in the way a lot of the time, just making like the excuse, oh, I got this going on or this going on, this going on. Eventually, I'm gonna get to the point where I burn the boats. Have you heard that expression?
I haven't actually.
So I think it was the great Alexander. Don't quote me. I'm pretty sure it was him, though. Basically went into a battle and he was like, we're leaving here on Persian boats. Burn our boats. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So he's basically saying, like, the only way out of here is winning this battle. And they won the
Mhm.
battle and they went home in Persian boats. So the idea
Okay.
is screw everything else. This is what I want. I'm not stopping until I get it. You know what I mean?
And you got to have
that's
that
like-
clear vision of what you want
That's
to get
scary.
it to.
That's scary because that would mean quitting my job. That would mean
That's always scary
leaving
for people.
security. You know what I mean? And like, but
yeah, that's what I did. Just quit my job, and a couple
but
months later,
without careful planning, that would be stupid.
yeah, I mean, I didn't have everything set up, but yeah, I was relatively set up.
Like
But
what?
it was still, it was still very scary because this wasn't the first shop I had. We had my buddy. He had an apartment, and we kind of converted the downstairs into like a nerd hangout, and it went decent enough, and I was able to get a actual spot in a plaza.
So what kinds of things helped you create that window for your escape? I call it I call it the window for escape from the Matrix.
So
Mhm.
I was too scared to do it by myself.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Hey, I got a place. We'll go halves in on everything." And I'm like, "All right, that's kind of the kick in the butt I needed. Just somebody else to kind of help me out a little bit."
Mhm.
And then once I was good enough to where I knew I was going to be good on my own.
Yeah.
So eventually we parted ways, and I wasn't scared to go out and get my own shop, and it was scary, but it's calmed down a bit.
Have you guys talked about where we're at right now? What kind of what is your business? Kind of plug it real quick.
Oh yeah, I do mainly Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh.
The
and-
Mana House.
Yeah,
That's
the
name
Mana
of
House
it.
is the name of the shop.
I like it. I like the
Yeah.
name.
Yeah,
So
I
we-
wanted.
Now Mana, because I've never really
Let's
gotten
kinda talk about how
fully
that
into that world.
started.
Mana is like energy, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
yep.
I thought so.
Yeah, there's a couple uses of it. I didn't come up with the name by myself. I did a Google name generator.
Okay.
And
Hey, that's still a good one.
yeah,
though.
yeah. I kind
Still a good
of.
one to
I
go
mean,
with.
it still took me
That's how
about an
Post
hour to
Malone
pick out.
found his name. You know.
Oh, really?
Really? He just did
The
a
name
generator thing?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, because it's tough for me to come up with ideas, so I
Yeah.
kind of just Google everything.
Hey,
Man, I'm an idea guy, but then I never put them into action, and that's my biggest downfall. Like what you were talking about a minute ago, I did quit working, and Erica and I started our own photography business,
mhm.
and I didn't put fuck all kind of energy into it, man, and that's why it failed. I
Yeah.
just didn't put the
You were just
energy
kind of
into
hoping
it.
things would fall into place.
Kind of, but
Yeah,
also
they
too,
went
I
to-
don't think that was fully my dream. I liked doing photography,
Oh, okay.
Right.
but I like doing like nature photography and stuff.
Mhm.
I still would like to do. I still like doing action shots. Action shots are fun. Like when I went to, and I just did it for fun. Of course, I went to. It was in 2019, maybe it was. I went to Go Skate Day at Eldridge Park and just took pictures of the skaters. And I'm telling you, these pictures could have been used in magazines. They were that good. And what's crazy is that was the first time I ever did action shots too.
Mhm.
So, and then I went and did our guests that we just had 2 weeks ago, Mike and Chris. I went and did pictures of them up in Rochester. Their tag team matches, Born to Wrestle,
Oh,
and those
okay.
came out pretty decent too.
I'm gonna have to look at those.
Speaking of pictures that are like awesome, my buddy Vinny, he went to the red light district over like this
Oh.
last week
Over
he got
in,
in
In
Amsterdam.
Amsterdam?
oh.
And he brought
Interesting.
his 3 a.m. hat. This shit is legendary. And he gave one of the girls a 3 a.m. hat and caught a photo with the red light district girl wearing his brand.
Nice.
Tell me that's not
Nice.
sick.
I'd love to meet him and talk to him about coming on the podcast.
Definitely. Maybe he'd be the next guest or whenever you guys want to pencil him in. That would be. I'm sure he would really love that. And he's got so many things to talk about because he just has a lot of life experience. You know, traveling the world. He's seen America from different perspectives, and he's
Mhm.
seen like how life is in other places, and that just kind of makes you more versatile as a human being. And it just the stories that he's gonna tell when he's old to his kids is gonna be wild.
Traveling gives a lot of stories. Erica and I traveled in 2015, just drove around the country, and
What was your favorite
Just-
part?
man, that's tough. Tennessee is very beautiful.
Hmm.
Oregon is. So one of the reasons I really love Oregon, because I like to stone balance.
Mhm.
The stones out in Oregon, they're this volcanic type of stone. So there's a lot of like divots and indents and holes in the stones. So there's
Oh, so it lets you balance a
there's
lot easier.
so much more you can
That's
do
right.
that's creative with those. Now, my favorite state, though, if I'm being honest, just because of the geography of it, it sucks how expensive it is, and some of the laws there. California, when you think about it, California's got everything this country has to offer. It's got forests, it's got mountains,
Oh yeah,
it's got
'cause it runs
beaches,
the
it's got
entire
deserts, it's got
West Coast. Essentially.
yeah, it's got everything.
Yeah, some of it
So
was super hot, and then Northern California,
Yeah.
it's freezing cold.
if it wasn't so expensive to live out there, I'd probably move there.
Have you ever been to Fisherman's Wharf out there?
No, didn't make it there.
Gotta go there in San Francisco, man.
Okay.
Oh, there's this place I went to called Lou's. Stuck with me. I'm gonna have to visit there again someday. It was just a restaurant, just like a regular restaurant, but it's right there on the water, so everything's fresh.
Okay.
And it wasn't like $1 million, you know what I mean? So I like little simple stuff like that, you know. And I went to Muir Woods when I was there. Have you been there yet?
No, we didn't
The
make it there.
Redwoods?
So when we got out to California, we were actually starting to get low on money. So we kind of drove up through California quickly after camping in the Los Padres National Forest for 3 days. And then we stopped in San Francisco, but didn't really get to visit much. And then from there drove straight up to Eugene, Oregon. And that's where we tried to settle, but that was probably a bad spot to settle because it's a college town and it's super expensive. So we couldn't get on our
Mhm.
feet. Like even studio apartments at the time were like $800, and places out there wanted first month, last month, and security deposit. And I was also a stubborn 25-year-old and didn't want to shave my face or brush out my dreadlocks to get a job. And the thing is, I could have easily gotten a job if I just changed my appearance, but no, I was being fucking stubborn and didn't. So
I was the same way. I used to have super long hair, and I didn't want to cut it. My buddy's brother, he was one of the heads at Kirby, and he was going to get me a job selling vacuums. And I'm like, I'm not cutting my hair. He's like, you need to be a little bit more presentable. And I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm not
That's
doing it.
something
I was
that
like 17 years old, fresh out of high school. And I'm like, I can't do it.
I heard a funny sales tactic about Kirby from some guys that used to work there, where they said if the person opens their door and they're holding their door open, you point down at their carpet and just like walk in and start explaining what you're seeing on the carpet. So you just kind of like barge into there. Oh my God, what is that? And you just walk in and point and start explaining how you can help.
That might be a little dangerous, but
It's pretty wild. I remember when I was like 5-6 years old, my dad got real pissed at a Kirby salesman, and
Did you just walk in and point at the carpet?
well, he was in our house for like over an hour, and finally my dad's trying to get him to leave. He's like, "All right, I'm done. I'm not buying anything." Like, and the dude just didn't want to leave. Like, wasn't taking no for an answer. And finally, my dad had to threaten him, and tell him like, if you don't get the F out of this house, I am going to take your shit, throw it out, and then I'm going to pick you up and throw you out of my house. And finally the dude left.
So he didn't know Sales 101. Sales 101 is get to know fast. The faster you get to know, the faster you get to yes. You know what I mean? There might be 1,000 between, but one yes and 1,000 is still a yes. You know
Yeah,
what mean?
I think my dad only
Not in everything.
let him in to be nice
in
to
everything.
entertain him.
No?
So a question that just popped in my head, I wanted to ask you, because we've been talking about meds and transmuting negative energy. What are some of the things that really help you transmute negative energy?
Music and interpersonal relationships with others, and just vulnerability. Vulnerability is huge. And vulnerability is scary, but you find that that's where you connect to people the most. And through connections, I think that I've transmuted a lot of negative energy in that way. But basically, music is one way. Any form of self-expression. Sometimes I paint. Sometimes I dance.
Dancing's a big one.
I sing.
I dance when I'm doing the dishes every day.
Sometimes, this is going to be crazy, but sometimes I go to places where nobody knows me and I do wild shit just because it's like,
I know
You're never
how
gonna see
that.
them again.
I'll never
so-
see you again, so I'm just going to go in the middle of this
I mean,
Walmart and be like, hoo-yah!
I've done that in places where people do know me. I don't know if you remember seeing the pictures floating around Facebook in 2021 of me standing downtown in the green gorilla suit with the sign that says Harambe died for our sins.
That was you?
Yeah, it was me. That was me.
I don't think I've seen
Dude, that
Yeah.
made the background photo of the Elmira is Crazy page. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'll have to find the picture to show
Breaking
you.
the
But
Matrix, man.
yeah, that was me, man. I just decided to just go out and do something goofy for the day, and it felt great.
So what is your, I call it meds. What's your meds? You said music, right?
Recently, not just music, singing.
Singing.
There's something about when I sing, I feel so good. As long as my voice actually is good, because there's been a couple days at Domino's where like my voice just keeps cracking and I just can't seem to warm it up recently.
Yeah, I've
And
had that.
That drives me. Like, you can ask Erica. There's been several days over the last 2 weeks. Like, I was sick 3 weeks ago and I also quit smoking, and then all of a sudden it was like a week later my voice started getting worse. And there was like 3 nights in a row I come home from work and Erica's like, "How was work?" And immediately I was like, it was fucking dog shit, because my voice was terrible. I couldn't hit notes when I was singing, and like that's what made my night annoying at work, was I couldn't sing well. And I don't know if it's because the way my body vibrates, or if I
Your
have
lung capacity
if I have
probably
a
changed.
if I have a slight bit of narcissism in listening to my own voice, because like I did say on one of the episodes here that I do kind of like the sound of my own voice. But I don't know, there's something about singing, and like even on my trips sometimes I've gone into like these deep like ohms, like just the vibration of it. Like sometimes I've even done like higher pitch, lower pitch, or like changed pitch, and I don't know if it's the way it makes my whole body vibrate, but like it's like any bit of negative energy that's in here, I can seem to get out when I'm singing.
And then that keeps it from infecting other people. That's the major thing. Is that you're almost like a filter for the energy.
Mm-hmm.
And as an empath, like I feel like I have empathic abilities of some kind. So like as an empath, when you walk into a room and you feel like the energy, I feel like we all can do it. Just some of us are more attuned to it, and maybe it's from trauma. But like as an empath, being able to take other people's energy throughout the day and put it into something and make it beautiful is something that I've been working on too. So I've been taking music. Some of the stuff you'll see on No Patience isn't my story. It's other people's stories that they've told me that are being immortalized through the music.
Okay.
Now, do you ever mix like marijuana and music? Do you ever cross the
Not
two?
anymore.
No.
Not anymore. I mean, They're both called the Meds Movement in a way. I got Meds Genetics on Instagram.
Even though you don't smoke, I feel like you should write a weed song.
Oh no, I'm
I
yeah,
have-
yeah.
Oh yeah, I do
Every
have
rapper has a
weed
weed
Yeah, that's
song.
what I was
have
gonna
a-
say.
Okay.
You know, do music
what you-
about marijuana.
Yeah, I have a song called Meds. It goes, I got to get high. I'm rolling meds. Got me right. I'm smoking this shit way too fine. It's potent. Everything's alright. I'm just toasted. That's the hook. That'll be on the album.
Okay. Yeah, it's always nice being able to combine two things that you love.
Yeah, because I used to see. I probably could smoke again. I'm just not smoking this new stuff, man. This new stuff
Potent.
knocks me the fuck out. Like wedding cake, I smoked it
Ooh,
Christmas a few years back. Couldn't wrap presents.
whew, that sounds like
I couldn't wrap presents. The person I was wrapping presents with was very upset with me. Well, actually, they weren't that mad, but
sounds like the MK
I felt
Ultra we
bad.
had in Oregon. The heaviest strain I've still had to this day that just put my dick in the dirt was called MK Ultra. We got it from a place called TJ's Organics, I think it was, out in Eugene.
Oregon.
Holy shit, man! Yeah,
And
Eugene,
you're
Oregon.
a smoker. Like you were a daily smoker.
Yeah,
at the
like
time.
like daily, and that stuff still put my dick in the dirt.
Yeah.
The strongest that we had was from Colorado. It was 32.5% THC. And what's crazy is that felt stronger than the keef we were smoking all summer, because I'd saved up a bunch of keef before we traveled the country, and then I had like some already vaped weed that I had been saving for months to put the keef on while we were traveling and to smoke it that way. And
Keith.
so like when you grind up weed, there's this very, very fine powder that'll fall
Yeah,
through
yeah.
the bottom screen. That's keef. And it's basically just like it's
like
got
your trichomes that are
yeah, it's
falling
like all
out
the
too, like
trichomes and
crack
everything that
crust.
have
Okay.
fallen off. You can also take it and put it in a pollen press and like let it sit for like 24 hours, and then it makes like a little. They call them hockey pucks or keef coins, and you can throw that in a bowl and smoke it up that way, and it doesn't burn as fast that way. Like if you just like take some keef and throw it on top of some flour, it can burn pretty quickly. Where the puck will burn a little more smoother.
We've talked about how cannabis can be good for you. Can we talk a little bit about how there are some negative effects that are coming out now? Like my brother he went to the hospital recently for stomach pain. It's called cannabinoid hypermesis.
I've heard of that. I'd actually like to talk to him about it, because I've heard about it, but I've never talked to somebody in person about it.
Yeah, the only negatives I've ever heard were people, like you said, when you smoke, you get paranoid. That's
Mhm.
about the extent of the negatives that I've ever heard.
He smoked every day for the last like 7 years or something, and basically his liver isn't processed. Read on it; it's very rare.
Mhm.
It's not like a thing that everybody. No,
What I've-
hear
one
me
of
out.
the-
Not everybody's gonna get this thing. Don't be scared to smoke weed. It's just there is negative effects. and
One
they
of the
are coming
strange
out
things I
slowly.
heard about this cannabis hypermesis is, strangely, one of the things that helps take it away is a hot shower
Hmm.
or a warm shower.
I'll have to tell him
That somehow that helps the nausea or takes away the stomach pain, and it just sounds like such an odd way to help, but apparently it does.
Yeah. So basically, they told him that his liver or something wasn't processing the cannabis in the way it should, and it creates pain, abdominal pain and stuff.
So I think one of the big things that's never talked about with cannabis is the psychological addiction that comes
Yeah.
with it. People always want to say, "Oh, cannabis isn't addicting." Maybe not so much physically, but psychologically, absolutely it is. I know people still in their young 30s, late 20s that they smoke a bowl before leaving to go on a nature adventure, where they're gonna smoke a blunt while they're hiking and then smoke another one when they get to the destination of the hike. And it's like they can't do anything without smoking first.
That's how my brother is.
I used to be that way through my mid 20s, and I kind of slowed down over the last couple years. When I started doing the Sober October is when I started noticing some of the negatives of cannabis. The first year I did the Sober October was 2019. I skipped 2020 because it was a rough, stressful year. I did it in 2021. And then last year I also skipped it because I was working at a sticker shop.
Mhm.
And all they did in that place all day was smoke weed. So
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like, holy shit, man, I can't. I mean,
So
I
that
could
brings-
have with more willpower done it last year, but I decided not to. But one of the negatives from quitting cannabis is it'll lessen your appetite. You won't feel hungry, which luckily this time I was still able to eat pretty well because I'd quit smoking cigarettes, so I was still hungry. The sleep is probably the worst part. For 10 days, I was
heard
only
your dreams come back.
my
really
dreams.
Heavily.
Okay, so the
Is
first
it like
the first 10 days when I wasn't getting a lot of sleep, it's every sober October I've done, it's taken about 10 days for my sleep to adjust. And after the 10th day, when you actually start getting 6 to 8 hours of sleep again instead of 4, holy
your dreams
shit,
are
I feel like I'm living in another reality the last couple nights. Like they've felt so real. I wake up and I'm like that happened, and I'm actually able to remember them too. Like I know I used to dream while I'd be smoking, but I'd wake up and it's just like I got Men in Black flashy thinged, and I just couldn't remember a damn thing from my dream. Where now I'm actually remembering
So
specifics.
dreams weren't as vivid when you were smoking.
They weren't.
Is that for
They
everybody?
weren't. They weren't vivid, and not everybody, because Erica doesn't seem to have a problem with it.
Okay.
But for myself, like they weren't vivid. I couldn't remember them, and now they seem real. Like I'm having full conversations.
lucid dreams.
I'm not quite lucid where I know I'm dreaming, and I feel like I'm going to be able to get there. This is one thing I'm excited for, is because when I
Look down at your hands and before you go to sleep, and then look down at your hands in your dream, and you'll know that you're dreaming.
okay, I've never heard that trick before. So in the past, even while I have been smoking weed, the dreams where I've become lucid, I'm able to fly.
Yeah.
And now, if, like I said, I might not go back to smoking weed the way that I did, or if all after this month. So I'm interested to see how one of these flying dreams is going to go now that my dreams are so much more vivid.
Yeah.
I've jumped through wormholes in dreams in the past, which is weird because I can actually describe to you the feeling of going through the wormhole. It's like if you take a rubber band and you cut it, so it's just like a long piece, and you grab each end. As you're going into the wormhole, it's like that rubber band getting stretched all the way out until it reaches its limit before it's about to
Spaghettified.
break. But then all of a sudden, it's like who's ever holding that rubber band lets go, and you go from stretched back to boom, real fucking quick. And then you're on the other side of the
I wish I
the
could have dreams
wormhole.
like that.
It's weird because when I got to the other side, I was on a planet that had an orange sky. It had like purple grass, blue trees. The water was the green part. It was
So a Dr. Seuss book.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it was like a whole different alternate reality. There's been times I've jumped from the moon down to Earth, but those dreams are so far and few between, and I'm kind of hoping that now that I'm gonna be, like I said, I don't know if I'm gonna smoke much after this month. I might treat weed like a psychedelic. I'm hoping to have those dreams more often, because the last couple nights
were incredible. Huh?
Yeah, because I feel like I'm not just going black for however many hours and then waking up. I'm actually like doing stuff in my dreams.
Another reality.
Yeah. And I also want to explore the nature spots in my dream. There's this one place I go to that has multiple cascading waterfalls. And that place has been recurring in my dreams, and I want to explore it more. It's pretty interesting.
Heck yeah.
You know what's weird? Even though I'm not lucid in my dreams, I can't cheat on Erica in my dreams.
You tried?
No, not that I've tried. It's like
Right.
somehow even in my dreams, I
know.
I
not to
know.
do it.
Yeah, I know. That's
Oh.
interesting to me.
You're spiritually connected to her.
Very.
Very much so.
That's
yeah.
that's what's interesting to me, is that like,
That's like she might as well be your twin flame, right? Have you gone into that?
oh, we've talked about that often. Because I feel like other people would just do whatever in their dreams without even thinking about it.
Right.
And there's
Even
been
in your dreams, you're saying you're aware of your.
there's been
living
times
reality.
where like I was about to do something with a woman in my dream, and I'm like, no, I'm married. I can't. Sorry.
Right.
That's interesting to me, because I guess I've never heard anybody else have
I've never heard that
similar
either.
things.
That's awesome, though.
Because there was one time I was making out with someone in a dream, and I woke up and actually like felt shame. I woke up from it and was like, oh my God, I cheated on Erica.
Yeah, because you're thinking
Right.
that
Yeah.
was my subconscious telling me
Yeah.
that, or
And I know that
that'd be
feeling.
scary.
I know that feeling of being cheated on is terrible. Can't stand it. I've been there in a past relationship, and it's an awful feeling.
So
So
did you figure out why it was that way in your waking life? Was there something that like maybe you had done that day prior that you just felt like wasn't like maybe you said something and you regretted
Or
it
like
while
you
you
had
slept or
a
you know what I
little
mean?
fight or something.
Like a little spat or something and you were like, "Oh man, I'm not
Man,
doing
this-
right by her in the
I-
way that I spoke or the way that I, you know what I mean?"
I mean, that's highly possible because this is within the last 3 years, and I was explaining to you about how when I was prescribed Adderall, it just kind of withdrew me
yeah.
from the people around me, and I wasn't showing her as much love or as much
and
attention.
this dream
So
happened during that time.
it was in that
So,
time, yeah.
Yeah, it's like
So-
it's like your subconscious showing
Mhm.
it to you, like, hey, it's not necessarily exactly what happened in the dream that is the reality. It's the message behind it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I've done a lot of reading on dreams and stuff because I try to interpret my own.
Mm-hmm. Like I had a dream the other night where I was a prisoner. A couple
Yeah.
nights ago, I was
So
I
you
was a
probably feel
convict.
stuck in your waking life
Yeah.
somewhere.
Very much so, because I know what it is I'm stuck in inaction.
Mm.
I've had so many ideas over the last decade, great ideas, things that I wanted to do, and I haven't done them.
Mhm.
I haven't put in the action.
But you
I've-
are now.
Thought and I've spoke, but then didn't do anything else. Almost like that idea of manifestation. I took it wrong where, oh yeah, these things will happen if I just think about it and talk about it.
Yeah, a lot of
No,
people do
dummy.
that.
You got to put in the action, man.
Yeah,
You got to put in the work.
a lot of people they get the wrong idea because it's so popularized that you could just think and have life happen for you. And
So, Part of
it's
me,
like, yeah, it starts as a seed here. Everything starts in the mind, but
Yeah.
until you've actually physically altered your reality in some way, your reality is not going to
Yeah,
change.
something that helps with that is just writing it down,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
a to-do list. Like I found that if I have it written down, that I feel like I've let myself down if I don't cross that off.
You set your intentions
So-
for the day.
there's
yeah.
a saying for Marines: once a Marine, always a Marine. A lot of people might not know this, and I'll go ahead and admit it. I was kicked out of the Marine Corps in my second enlistment. I didn't willfully exit. I got kicked out popping on a piss test for smoking cannabis.
DD 420, it's called, or something.
Well,
like
your
that?
DD 214 is the paper they give you when you get out, but I didn't get a dishonorable or bad conduct discharge. I got other than honorable because I served one full 4-year honorable term.
Mhm.
And I think when I got out and got into psychedelics, a part of me thought, okay, you're not a Marine anymore. You got kicked out. You got to kill that part of yourself. You gotta move away from it. And I think that's where a lot of my inaction came from in life, because being a Marine is still very much part of who I am. Like nobody can take that away from me, even if I got kicked out. I'm once a Marine, always a Marine. So it's like I'm at a point in my life where I'm trying to reawaken the Marine in me, to merge that with who I've become. And I think that's really gonna help me out.
Definitely,
It might
because
just be a
discipline the hell out of you.
so one of the things to help me with the discipline, and it might not seem like a lot over the course of a month, 1,000 push-ups throughout the month of October that I'm doing with Sober October, which is cool now that I'm not smoking. I'm
Yeah,
technically
33 a day, something like that.
33 a day or 66 every other day.
It's pretty good.
But I've been taking the time to do a lot of these push-ups while I'm on the clock at work. Instead of taking a smoke break now, I go take a push-up break real quick.
That's
not
what
a bad idea.
That's what I do too.
Now I'm
Get
getting
paid to
paid.
work
Now I'm
out.
getting paid to do push-ups.
Yeah. So, so what I was going to say about the dream thing, you know how you're having more dreams now that you're not smoking cannabis?
Mhm.
They can attribute that to, what's that? It's the melatonin. The
Okay.
production of melatonin changes when you smoke a lot of cannabis. And
Okay.
and your system starts, like, don't quote me 100%. Do your own research. But what I read was basically your melatonin production is affected somehow by the cannabis. And so when you quit smoking cannabis, melatonin helps you sleep and dream.
I'm wondering if my 2 avocados a day is helping at all, because there's tryptophan, a little bit of tryptophan in
Yeah, that might
avocados.
help too.
Yeah, avocado
Um,
is super food.
So this is weird. I've been noticing. I've been eating an avocado for breakfast, and then I take one into work and
You
have it
just
in the
eat
evening.
avocado, or
Oh
you
yeah, I
put it-
just cut it in half and
interesting.
scoop it out like it's ice cream. It's so good to me. So buttery. I
I'm gonna have
love
to
it.
Try that. I've had it on
Um,
toast, but
Avocado toast.
But there's-
it's so good.
there's-
It's fancy, but
There's been a couple days where like an hour to 2 hours after eating my avocado, I feel like I get that slightly lowered eye feeling,
Mhm.
and I don't want to say I feel stoned, but you know that feeling you get when LSD like first begins to kick, like at the 30-minute mark, when you get those first feelings through your body and that slight little wave of
Yeah, you're
relaxation.
Like, "Ooh, it's happening."
That's how I feel. And of course, then I Google it, and avocados can actually help with the stimulation of serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine.
Hmm.
So I'm wondering if maybe those are also affecting my sleep and dreams in a positive way.
Yeah, I bet they are.
I'm gonna
Okay.
go buy an avocado after this.
They're so good.
I hope Top.
So did you have other questions that we wanted to touch on? I'm not sure. We kind of got off track there a little bit.
Oh, that's the great thing about podcasts is
We
you can
just
Yeah,
just,
you can
just
do
just
whatever you
talk.
want.
Really?
Yeah, sometimes I don't
This
always
is my
like
first podcast.
like sometimes I write down questions, but then like even when we did Chris and Mike for the Wicked Realm Film Festival, I feel like sometimes when I'm just going off the questions that
Mhm.
I'm reading,
Feels
then it sounds
like-
more like an interview than it does a conversation.
right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah, it doesn't feel organic.
Yeah. I like the organic feeling for sure.
Yeah, me too.
And that's something, we'll learn to flow with a little
Yeah, it's
more,
always good to have notes because there's some points that you have to
Mhm.
you have to touch on.
for sure.
And if you forget, then
But
you
then
have
look-
people left wondering. It's like, hey, why didn't they talk about this? And then
Yep. But then look at some of the great conversations we just had where
I
we
know.
just started flowing. That
Yeah.
was great.
What else have you got? What's your meds?
same as most people's music. I turn on
Magic.
How do you
turn on
transmute
music
your
and
pain?
start singing.
Just start singing.
Yeah, Magic's a big one too. I mean, I've been playing that since I was 13 years old, and the nice thing about my work is
I've got something that I've been meaning to tell you for almost a decade that I never told you.
you found your old cards.
Nope.
Oh.
I've told Russ. Erica knows about it. Do you remember Adina?
Vaguely, I've never really met her,
Okay.
but I remember
So,
her from working at Domino's.
In 2013, when her and I were together, right before Erica and I got together, I'm asleep, and I ended up waking her up, tossing and turning back and forth. And next thing I know, I'm getting woken up because I punched her in the face. I rolled over and punched her in the face, and I hit her so hard it woke me up.
I think I remember you. Did you talk about that back then?
I don't think I ever told you about it, but the reason it happened, and I still vividly, clearly remember this dream. In the dream, you and I were at Domino's over by the make line because we were working at Domino's together. And I
Shout out Domino's.
I showed you my this Charizard card I had, first edition.
Mm.
I didn't own one of those in real life, but I did in the dream, and I showed it to you, and then you wouldn't give it back to me. So in the dream, I went to punch you, and I somehow rolled over and punched her in my sleep at that very moment.
Oh no!
It's pretty wild that I still vividly remember that.
Give me my what was it?
He wouldn't give me my Charizard card back.
Charizard. Give me my Charizard.
That's wild. I felt
That's funny.
I felt so bad. I mean,
It wasn't funny to her.
definitely
No,
not. And
not
I don't
funny.
I don't know how hard I really hit her, but it was enough to wake me up.
Yeah.
Like I just rolled over and just. She said it was just one motion too, and luckily that's the only time I've ever hit a female.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say I never have because I did there accidentally, but
So what kinds of things are you guys trying to accomplish with your podcast? Let's kind of talk about that a little bit. Like where do you see this going? What's the future look like for you guys?
for one, it's just networking, meeting people, talking to people. I mean, over the last decade, I've obviously loved talking to people. I used to post on
We've
Facebook.
always had great conversations.
I used to post on Facebook back in the day. Oh, who wants to come have a burn and learn? I used to have these burn and learns. Come smoke weed and let's just talk, man.
Mhm.
My buddy Amjad, him and I wish we would have had cameras rolling for some of our conversations because they would have made great podcast episodes.
Mhm.
I told you I want to eventually, hopefully by next year, start my own side project called Psyched Sessions, talking about the psychedelic experience. And by doing this and putting in the effort to do this, I'm hoping it will motivate me to put more effort into music more and back into stone balancing.
Your stone balancing skills are crazy, bro.
Yeah, and I haven't done it in months, man. When
Okay.
when I got off the Adderall, what they don't tell you about Adderall is how it can steal your joy in the things that you like to do. It's been very hard for me to try to sit over there and stone balance and pick up the stones and just put them together like I used to.
I
And
gotta try that.
I
one
know-
of these times I've always seen people do it, and you go down by the creek and somebody's got some wild sculpture they made, and it's just unreal to think that that's possible. That's
Have you ever tried balancing with other objects
Yes.
outside of
Shit,
stones?
it's on my old phone. So we put the top of a water bottle when I worked at the sticker shop. We put the top of a water bottle on the floor, and I took a chair and balanced it on the water bottle, and it looks pretty wild. I'll have to see if I can find that picture to show you sometime. But yeah, I take stuff at Domino's when we're slow and just try to balance it. So by doing that at Domino's, I'm trying to get back into the, hey, this is something you like to do. Just start doing it so you can get that feeling again and remember how much peace and joy it brings you. Like when you're talking about meds, it was at least once a week in the past where I'd go drive to a waterfall or find a creek somewhere in the Finger Lakes and just post up for the day and stone balance.
That was
And
your medicine.
that for sure was my medicine. And I haven't done it like all summer. I went to a stone balancing gathering down near New York City in New Windsor. And sadly that got cut short because the person watching my dog got let out and was gone like all
Right.
night. So, yeah, the dog ended up running away and we had to drive 3 hours back to find the dog. And I went back down on that Sunday and
He
did a
was
little.
looking for you.
The crazy thing is I shouldn't have even went looking for the dog because we were out till like 3 o'clock in the
and
morning.
then he just came back.
And
That's how it
knowing
always
my
happens.
dog and his separation anxiety, he probably didn't go too far from the house. So if we would have just went and sat on the front porch and just started whistling or smoking a cigarette or whatever, because I was still smoking at the time, I feel like he would have came back.
Yeah. You're connected. Your connection with your dog is really cool.
We got him out of a bad situation. I don't exactly know how the situation was, but he showed all the signs of being abused when we got him home because he peed on the carpet the first day. And me knowing how to, try to teach a dog to go to the bathroom outside, I saw him peeing and he was still like a little baby at the time. So with 2 fingers, I reached down to try to like lightly grab his collar to guide him outside to let him know like, hey, pee out here. And as soon as I reached down, he flopped over on his side, showed me his belly and started yelping like I was already whooping the shit out of him.
Yeah. It's
And-
a defense mechanism.
Yeah, Erica said to me, she goes, "What is that?" I said, "That is the signs he's been abused."
Yeah, that's what my dog does
Yep.
because we got her as a rescue, and even now we've had her for a little over a year. And even sometimes when I go to pet her, she'll flop down and
Mhm.
get on her back.
Yep,
And
my dog still
like
does
quiver.
that. It was someone giving him away for free on Facebook. It looked like they wanted to breed pit bulls and then realized he wasn't a full-blooded pit bull because he's a mix of a lab and a pit bull.
so they probably just neglected him.
Well, she said
him in a
when
cage
she
or
got
something.
there, he was in a cage
Yeah.
with another pit bull already, and it didn't look like there was a lot of room for the 2 of them. And she even said, yeah, the owners said he just whines and cries all night. Well, the first night we had him home, he didn't whine or cry at all, which tells me they left him in that crate all night, and a puppy needs attention.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's probably why he was whining and crying all the time.
Have
Yeah,
you-
I
do you have
never
other
got
animals,
I never got the whole animals in cages. I've never had to put any animal in any cage.
Sadly,
I just
we-
don't like. I can understand if you're
Mhm.
going somewhere for 12 hours and
Mhm.
you have a new animal, you don't want them chewing up the carpet and they're not used to it yet. Maybe put them in a cage, but
For us, it's him. He'll poop all over the house if we don't put him in the crate. It's weird. Yeah.
It's like a hey,
He's-
you left me here and didn't take me with you.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna shit on you. It's like a nervous poop. Like, oh my God, I'm alone. Like that separation anxiety. He seems like he actually
the crate can be
the
a safe
crate
space.
is kind of a safe space
Yeah.
for him. So
You have to
Um,
early on teach the animal that it's a good spot for them to be, and then they get comfortable in there. And like when I had dogs, they didn't mind being in their crates because they would even go in there to take their naps because they had.
yeah,
their
I guess if
beds
they
in
go in there willingly,
yeah,
they
our,
don't.
our
yeah,
cat likes to go in his crate too. It's weird. Yeah, you asked if we had another animal. We have a little 7. She might be 8 pounds now. She's put on a little weight. She's a small cat. She's a fucking bully, man. She bullies the hell out of our 60-pound dog.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's funny to watch.
Erica's still painting and stuff, right?
No, she fell into the same issue with me with painting. When she quit the Adderall,
Mhm.
taking away the joy. That's one of her paintings
So how can we get
back there.
How can we get you guys back to your roots?
To me, I think it's
as
just
a friend, how can I help you find your way back?
I honestly don't know. I feel like the best thing I can do is just to start doing it.
Yeah,
Again.
just carve out.
Yeah.
Specifically carve out a
Maybe I'll
section
just-
of a day that you have off,
Mhm.
and just tell yourself you're gonna
Yep.
do this at that time, regardless of whether or not you find it enjoyable. Just do it, and
Maybe I'll be that annoying friend that says, "Hey, did you balance stones this week?"
just give
That
them
would-
a call and be like,
that would
hey,
help.
You whatever
Did
you're
you
doing right
balance
now,
stones
get
this
up.
week?
and
Hit me with a
just go
message.
out.
Hey man, I didn't see you post any stone balance pictures this week on Facebook.
And then you go, "Oh man."
Yeah. Another thing, that's another thing, man. I have a phone addiction.
Yeah, I
And
think
it's-
a lot of
it's-
people do.
It's not even just scrolling Facebook. I have this quote unquote information addiction where like I got to know what's going on.
Right.
And I'm to the point I'm kind of sick of it. I need to put my fucking phone away, and like I know I can, and when I do, I accomplish so much. That's actually one of the revelations I had on a recent trip was holy shit, man, you've spent more time on your phone the last decade than you have doing anything else. And if
For a
you
long time, you didn't touch your phone really.
it was probably around 2016, 2017. It was around the 2016 election is I feel like when I got pulled into the information thing with everything going on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know how it happened. It just kind of happened.
Mm-hmm.
Politics, man, it can really suck you in and sometimes distract you from what you want to do.
Yeah. I think the world's, speaking of that, I think the world's getting a little wild, but also falling back together with the age of Aquarius. I don't know if you're into astrology like that, but we're just entering
Little
the
bit.
age of Aquarius out of the age of Pisces.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of stuff, according to astrology, a lot of stuff that that has been kind of hidden is supposed to come to the surface.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to be more open and more kind. And
That's been happening internally for
I
sure.
hate astrology.
have you guys noticed just a shift in the energy outside, even outside of astrology? Have you noticed like a shift in the energy of people and their ability to be more vulnerable, or is that just my reality right now? Because my reality right now is like I'm running into people who are not scared to be vulnerable.
Have you become more vulnerable?
I think so, yeah.
If your reality is a mirror, that's why your reality
Yeah,
is becoming
you'll-
more vulnerable. I'm still getting to that point where so I never admitted it to myself, but how disappointed I was for getting kicked out of the Marine Corps. And I held that in till about the beginning of this year. And this year has been rough because now I'm 33 and I'm having all these realizations of how that depression that I've tried to ignore for getting kicked out, how much it really affected me. And finally it got bottled up so much I had to confront it. And all this year has kind of been me dealing with that and trying to get myself back in a more positive mindset. And like I said earlier, conjoining the Marine in me with the person I've become through my psychedelic journey to make myself whole through that. And I feel like by doing such and actually starting to do things, all the things that the ideas that I've had that I said I'm going to do, I feel like by actually doing them, I will just become more happy.
Holding yourself accountable to your own word. You're building trust with yourself. again.
The identity issues I was telling you earlier. When I was in high school, I knew I wanted to be a Marine. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a Marine, and I became a Marine. And since then, it's like, man, I got ideas of things I like to do, but I'm not exactly sure what or where I want to go with it. And now I'm starting to get those ideas put together of what I want to do, who I am, and if I actually start, even though earlier I said I don't like the word manifestation, but start putting in the action to manifest these things, I'll feel better. Like I'm down on myself now because the Wicked Realm Film Festival that's going on, I was going to submit a film to that, and I didn't. And I used the excuse that my GoPro broke, which it did. My GoPro broke, and I wanted to film it all on the GoPro. But I could have found an alternative way to film that film. The film is called Murder Hornet.
So it's
because
coming
we
next
had
year then.
because we had the issue with the murder hornets here. So it's going to be a dramedy,
That
a
sounds
thriller
cool.
comedy. It's not going to be very long. It's only going to be like 5 minutes long, but
Yeah, but still.
Yeah, some of
That's-
those films were only about
Mhm.
4 or 5 minutes.
and
And
I'm hoping
a
that'll.
lot can get conveyed in that amount of time.
I don't want to reveal too much, but a lot of it's just going to be me in the woods, and there's going to be very few words in it, kind of like
Yeah.
the one film we watched
What
up
were
there.
You were inspired by this film? What was it?
Not so much the film itself, but there was one film this year where there was like almost no words in it. The one with the shadow puppets.
Oh, it was called Shadow Puppets.
Yeah, that's what it was called. Shadow Puppets.
Yeah, that one. Oh, that was like one of the. It was super nicely done.
Mm-hmm. I
There
wish
was no words.
I wish
just
they would.
sounds.
I wish
Made
they
some
would
sense.
do something with the contrast on the screens up
I
there.
noticed that. I was watching on the left screen, and that
Very-
was beautiful.
yep.
The left screen was super clear.
It looks
and-
even better if you watch the previews on your phone. It's like the contrast on the main screen they have is turned up way too high and is
Yeah.
very dark.
Yeah, it was super dark.
hmm
That's why I was like this. The
Yep. I
entire
was looking
time.
at the left one
Yep.
too, for sure.
So, I haven't been to that yet. The Wicked Film Festival.
There's two more weeks.
Yep,
There's
every
this Friday and then the Friday after that.
Every Friday
I'm
in
gonna try to
October.
catch the end of this Friday. I've got a wedding to go to at 4, and I was gonna try to scoot out of there around like 7:30 to try to get to the film festival by like 8 when they do the intermission, because one of the last films that they're doing or showing this coming week is called No Soliciting Aliens, and that's the guys from Elmira that did this one. Because this year they've got films from I think Turkey, Iran, Canada, like all over the world, the Netherlands.
Awesome.
They put out a thing online and got a bunch of submissions, but they got some of their own movies in there too. And this one I went and helped them do a little bit of filming with. So I really want to see how it comes out because they said they thought it was their best project yet.
Oh yeah, they're the ones that did the one with the killer rubber ball. It was at them.
The Killer
Killer
Rubber Ball.
Rubber Ball.
Yeah, the one where they fell into the lawnmower.
Oh, fell into the lawnmower
Yeah.
for Doomed?
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
they
Doomed.
did. Yeah, they did that
So,
one.
That
so
was
they sound
funny.
enjoyable. I haven't done this yet. I need to go do it.
It's a good time. The guys here, their horror films tend to have a little slight comedy element to it as well, which I like because the
yeah,
whole
they're cheesy on purpose.
so No Soliciting is normally comedy. They've done a whole like series of No Soliciting where they're kind of like door-to-door salesmen because they used to sell Kirby's. So they entered one that was called No Soliciting Zombies last year into the film festival, and then this year they've got No Soliciting Aliens. And I'm eager to see it because they said that's their best work yet. So, and as we were talking about earlier, networking, the only reason I got hooked up with these guys and even met them to begin with is because I saw they were doing their wrestling, their tag team, which was called Born to Wrestle. And I just reached out to them wanting to do action photos. And I said, I'll come up to Rochester and take the photos for free from the crowd if you guys would like. And they're like, yeah, man, come on up and do it. But me also being a little bitch sometimes, I went and took pictures of them twice and never actually introduced myself to them. Just took the pictures and then sent them afterwards. And it's like, I got to stop doing that, man. Stop being nervous. There's no need to be nervous of strangers.
Yeah, and that's okay. That we're all on a path, and we all struggle with something. And once you've gotten, there's nothing to fear but the fear itself. I know that's been said before by a famous president or something, but it's true.
It's like we create the fear in our own minds. It's not there until we create it.
Right. And I
Show me
think that-
fear in the external world. It's not a tangible thing.
I wonder if that comes from just like evolution. You know what I mean? Now that we're to a certain point in society, do we need these things that have developed inside of our brains?
I definitely think the fear was
Anymore.
needed somewhere along the lines of our evolution. Like,
Yeah.
think if animals in nature felt no fear, then they would just stand there like fucking idiots when a tiger's coming to attack them or a
Right.
lion's coming to eat them. They'd be like, oh, there's nothing to be afraid of.
Well,
All right.
is it really fear or is it just instinct telling them to run?
I feel like that instinct
think-
comes from fear. Or maybe the fear comes from their instinct.
That's what I
It's
was
something that
Yeah,
triggers that feeling that's like, oh shit, run.
what
'cause-
came first, the fear or the instinct?
because there's not a lot
The
of
new
animals that
question.
can actually understand what fear is. Like there's some domesticated ones, and all other animals they're not really afraid of anything.
Yeah, they just have fight or flight.
It's like dolphins and dogs and cats can feel fear, and there might be a couple others that I've heard, but
Okay.
Dolphins are cool.
They
Did
are.
you know? I read something that said that They were studying the language of dolphins, and the only thing that they could conclude is that the dolphins didn't want the researchers to know their language, so they changed it.
Interesting.
I have not seen that. I'm gonna have to check that out. That's
Definitely
cool.
gonna have to
that's
look into
really
that
cool
one.
fun fact.
Huh.
They were researching them for years, and then they were like, well, either they don't want us to know their language, or we're just too stupid to get
Man,
it.
we'd be
basically.
screwed if they had actual limbs.
Yeah, they're so smart,
Can you imagine
so intelligent.
if the dolphins had fingers and like developed
Yeah.
tools in the water?
Yeah, they would
and
have had
stuff?
nuclear powered hundreds of years ago.
How cool would that movie be?
It'd be a good movie
Ooh,
for
yeah.
sure.
Like everybody's worried about sharks, but no one's scared of dolphins.
And no one's worried about the dolphins taking over the world.
What the hell?
I'm just saying, if they evolve to start walking on land, we're screwed, man.
Yeah.
They'll take over.
Especially if they could change their language like that, developing whole new ways to communicate with one another.
Man, what would you actually do if you were at the ocean or near a lake someday and you saw a fish come walking up out of the water?
Yeah, they're just figuring
That
out.
would
Well,
that would creep me the fuck out, man. Like, wait a minute, you're not supposed to have feet. You're not supposed to be walking on land. What the fuck? That'd be a little scary.
I feel like that's like if vampires were real, you know how they live forever or whatever, they've probably seen that.
Probably.
Think about if you lived forever, you would have seen dolphins and everything like develop.
Well, this gets me into an interesting question.
Let's
that
have
was
a trippy
posed.
little talk.
No human has actually ever seen an animal evolve.
None.
So evolution's a theory, but show me somewhere where an animal actually evolved.
But the ones that did, they did in real time, like frogs. Tadpole to a frog is like a fast.
Well, that's more just their life cycle more than it is evolution.
Right.
Like all of a sudden, if polar bears became like gray instead of white to blend in with mountains or something, then we could say, okay, that is evolution.
Mm-hmm. Perhaps
I'm not
that span of time doesn't exist within the mind of us.
like, I'm not saying I don't believe in evolution, because that's obviously the mainstream theory right now.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember who it was making the argument that, evolution isn't real and that every animal that's here has just been here since however long.
Mm-hmm. Both ideas are really cool.
Mhm.
Well,
But like when people say, well, how did we evolve from apes when they're still apes? That's where people get that wrong. It's like, well, we didn't evolve from apes. Us and apes share a common ancestor. That thing is gone, or we
Right.
don't know what it is.
it probably was an alien.
The
that
Von
said,
Daniken.
"Look."
I want to get one of those shirts that shows the alien fucking a monkey. Because the Von Daniken theory, the aliens came down and used like 10% of their DNA and mixed it with like 90% of the ape DNA to create humans.
Yeah, the hue of man.
That's-
An
I
alien
haven't heard
species
that.
called
That's funny.
man.
Eric Von
We're
Daniken
the
is
hue of that.
he's like the grandfather of the ancient alien theory that aliens
Okay.
came down and shaped civilizations in the past.
And we know they're real now.
Do we?
They said that they're official. The CIA released.
And they're
official-
pretty trustworthy.
Yeah.
yeah,
I have
true,
a
true.
I have
True,
a
good point. Good
I have a
point.
very hard time believing why now? Why all of a sudden now? Are they trying to prepare us for something? Are they trying to distract us from something? Why all of a sudden now, instead of keeping it top secret, come out and say, yeah, they exist? I've always thought they kind of existed. It's hard
Wow.
for me to believe that we're the only beings in the universe. And I don't know. I feel like if God was so grand, I feel like to say that we're his only creation like this is
That's conceit.
kind of taking God and making him smaller.
Mhm.
I kind of have the opposite.
Yeah, hit me with it.
Thought. It's easy to believe that we're the only ones because the chance of life is so minuscule that even with the size of the universe, you're talking 1 in billions of chance.
Mm-hmm.
If the
So-
universe exists as we know it, even.
Yeah, that's true too.
Well, it's like it ties into the Fermi paradox, where it's possible that there have been other life forms like us in the universe, but then we get to a certain point in our species evolution, like now, where we're creating such devastating weapons, where we end up getting to this point, and rather than being able to travel the universe or even through our galaxy, we just end up destroying ourselves, and then life has to start over again.
Like the Mars theory that we were on Mars before and did it once.
Yep, that we destroyed Mars and that somehow some of the beings were able to escape to Earth, and maybe those were the aliens that
Yeah.
created us.
The man, and we are the hue of man. And so maybe on Mars, they were like, they had evolved to a point where they could survive on the atmospheric conditions of Mars, and then they came to Earth and they had to find a species close enough to our genetic like our genetic makeup, to combine it and have the species live on.
I thought I read somewhere recently that looking through human DNA, there almost is a small piece in there that looks like it was like spliced in through something like CRISPR, the gene editing tool.
Yeah, and they're.
I'll have to find that so we can bring it up on another episode.
If you go into religion even further, they talk about it's like the Christ gene or something.
Oh, where it looks like a cross.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Maybe the Christ gene is that gene of the aliens coming. Who knows? I'm just going crazy.
Could be the aliens, or maybe that Christ gene is what's responsible for like human consciousness, or like they say the kingdom of heaven lives within every man, woman, and child, and that there's a piece of God within each of us. Maybe it's that gene that helps us tap into that.
Yeah, and the heavens are above us, and if the aliens were here, it's pretty interesting, huh?
There's a lot of interesting things to talk about life, and I love talking about life.
Yeah, me too.
I like talking about things unknown. I mean, obviously it's all like speculation when you come up with ideas and theories, but sometimes they're fun imagination exercises.
Yeah, and then they boost your creativity, and then you go and you write something, or you paint something that's inspired by it.
Alex Gray, when you said paint something inspired by it, Alex Gray, the way he's able to paint his paintings based off his DMT trips.
Are they accurate?
Man, they look like a DMT trip for sure.
I never tripped on DMT. I
checked
tried to do
his stuff out.
DMT.
Yeah,
before.
when we wrap this up, I'll show you guys some pictures. He's even got a little museum of his own down kind of near where our stone balancing event was. It's only like 20 minutes away, but sadly it was closed when we were there, so we couldn't go check it out.
I tried doing DMT once, a long time ago, and all I got was like a gong in my head. It was like gong, and then I didn't keep going.
Yeah, I've yet to have that giant breakthrough people are talking about. I've had some interesting experiences, one where I was quote unquote abducted by aliens, but this breakthrough that people have where they see this city of lights and all these wild entities, like, haven't quite gotten to that point, which is why I'd like to try again. There's several people online saying that
This is just for educational purposes.
of course, it's for educational purposes, but several people online were saying that when you use DMT that was extracted from Acacia confucia root bark powder, that there's also NMT in it, which isn't as psychoactive and it fights for the same receptors, so that it's much harder to break through on that extract than it is the Mimosa hostilis root bark extraction. So I'd love to try the Mimosa hostilis root bark extraction because I've only ever tried the Acacia.
You know who would be a good person to have on the podcast for this type of thing is Jerk, because he's doing these ayahuasca trips.
I did hear him and his
Done
girl
a few
went,
of
right?
them. Maybe both of them being on the podcast and just talking.
Yeah,
about that.
I'd love to, especially if I do my psychedelic podcast.
Yeah, man.
Because I've tried to do a modified form of ayahuasca called pharmahuasca, where you crush up Syrian rue seeds that act as the monoamine oxidase inhibitor to make the DMT active orally. You take that, you wait about 30, 45 minutes, and then swallow a pill capsule with the DMT powder. Erica and Alan had a much nicer time than me. It's like as soon as the DMT capsule started absorbing into my stomach, I got nauseous and I threw it up.
Oh,
And I don't think it all absorbed. What's weird is like I could feel this coldness starting to spread. Like it was starting to get absorbed into my system.
Mhm.
And I could feel that. And I was like, oh, that feels interesting. And then all of a sudden I got super nauseous and ended up throwing up. And I don't think it all absorbed in time. So
Your spirit wasn't ready for the experience.
I don't think it was. I don't think it was. And
They
maybe
say
that's
it
why
comes to you when you're ready for
maybe
it.
that's why I haven't had the full breakthrough on DMT yet either. Maybe that depression I was talking about that I buried deep, deep down and just forgot about for a while. Maybe I wasn't ready until I dealt with that.
Yeah, because I've had psychedelics experiences where they're not fun.
Oh,
because I haven't dealt with certain things.
I've had some very
the
rough
end-
acid trips.
By the end of it, I feel better because it helps you face it.
Mm,
But it's not fun.
if
in
if
the
you
meantime.
if you face it, because I know some people that have had quote unquote bad trips, they just sit there all night having a bad trip because they don't want to face it or don't want to release the energy that they're holding on to. Like I've had trips where I've bawled my eyes out like a little baby, and it felt so good. I've never had cries that felt that good.
Mm.
And it's some kind of release, man. And afterwards I've felt great for a while. And then my next several trips, they were much easier. But then all of a sudden the LSD decides, all right, motherfucker, you still got some shit buried down there, so get ready because we're gonna deal with that tonight.
Right.
And you don't have a choice to deal with it. It's gonna happen.
Have you ever done that? Have had any psychedelic experiences?
No,
at
I
all?
had my buddy made edibles once, and he gave me way too big of a piece.
Edibles can be not fun.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah, they last a long time.
You've got to do You've got to do small doses.
Yeah,
of
I've had
edibles.
the CBD gummies.
Mhm. That's
like-
not like the same though.
Yeah, because
Yeah, they're not as
you didn't really
psychoactive.
feel it that much, but
you know-
yeah. Aside from that, that's all I've ever done.
So there is something that I tried before, where I smoked really high end cannabis, and I was able to have the experience without the paranoia. I did a dab of CBD, pure CBD, right after I smoked, and that really chilled me out. Like it made it like an enjoyable experience rather than one where I was freaking out.
It's because the CBD will slightly counteract some of the psychoactive effects of the THC.
Yeah, it balances you.
Yep,
So
that's why when you get a THC strain that's higher in CBD, you usually don't get the paranoia or anxiety as much.
Yeah, so having a good balanced strain, I think that's something that I want to work on with the meds, because obviously I'll have some stuff like the perfectly creamed pie where it's like going for the right,
I did want to ask you, did you guys create any other strains besides that?
the sperm donor,
You guys got the craziest names.
and the perfectly creamed pie, and then we're gonna have the next one, perfectly creamed banana pie or some. I don't know. We have to
Okay.
come up with it, but it's gonna be banana clips
I've always thought naming.
crossed with perfectly creamed pie.
I've always thought naming plants would be fun if you were to crossbreed them.
Yeah, because why not be more creative? Like I feel
Oh, yeah.
like some of the names that are out there now could be way more creative. And as a breeder, it's fun to name your plants after their parents in a way. You know what I mean? How I said sperm donor, and then perfectly preserved pie, perfectly creamed pie. Maybe we'll have baby pie. I don't know, baby banana pie, or something
sounds
next. You know what I
delicious.
mean? Like.
That sounds delicious.
So that's the goal, is like it takes a long time, and I could do more. You know what I mean? Like I could
Mhm.
always do more, but to do a lot, you have to have the space. You know what I mean? And you still have to operate
I've
in a
seen-
certain way. You know what I mean?
I've seen the kind of space that it can take for having a shit ton to grow. I got to visit the growery my friend out in Oregon worked at. I went there one day and just did some under the table work, just packaging edibles for them. They needed extra hands, but he gave me a tour, and like, holy shit, man! Like they had like 4 different areas. One were for like the very first stage of grow, and then each
Shit.
area was for like a different stage of the grow. And then there was another area where they had their sativas because they grow so much taller than the indicas.
Mm-hmm.
And
So that's something that we're
just
looking
such
for
a beautiful
too.
thing to see too.
When we're breeding, is we're paying attention to how they grow, how fast the
Mhm.
cycles are, how much light they need, how durable the plant is. Like health is the number one thing when you're breeding.
Mhm.
Do you ever work on
Oh.
2 different breeds at the same time, or do you kind of focus all your energy into creating one perfect one?
So right now we're just doing one perfect one, but ideally, in the future, it'd be nice to have like
Yeah, be able to branch
be
out a
able
little
to
bit.
do a lot more, because when you're hunting for phenos, there's hundreds. You know what I mean? So it's like the more expressions of the pheno that you can have, like it's called basically like your gene pool, right?
Yeah.
The more you can select. You know what I mean? And with plants, interbreeding isn't really a big thing, but we still try to make sure it's as natural as possible, if that makes sense. So like, you're not gonna have like, well, actually, that's not true. There's a strain called Freak Show. Have you ever heard of it?
I
They
haven't heard of that one.
look it up, dude. It looks like a fern, like the plant. The actual leaves themselves look
Oh,
like
really?
fern leaves.
Interesting.
And they found that expression and they were able to isolate it and continuously produce it.
Okay.
So like that would have been fantastic back when it was illegal everywhere, like incredibly illegal, because it would
It
hide
doesn't look
better
like
Mhm.
it. Yeah.
in like outdoor. You know what I mean? Because it still looks like cannabis, but the leaves aren't. You'll have to see it. We need someone in here that we can say, "Hey, Jesse, pull
Oh
that
no,
up," or,
we
"Hey."
plan on having that
Yeah.
soon in the future. We were gonna get a little like TV to hang up, and because normally I just pull stuff up here on Google sometimes, but we don't have the screen recorder yet to like actually be able to take a clip of that and put it in to the podcast. But
But
soon.
That's something that my buddy Nix, he's been doing it for a lot longer, and he's got a better grip on his programs that he's run. I do a whole bunch of stuff, so it's like really finding the time. You know what I mean? After a
Mhm.
certain point, your time has to be within hours, but I'm not there yet, obviously. But eventually, it'll be to the point where I'm gonna have to manage my time by the minute after a certain point if I want to get to the level where I'm going, and that's gonna cause a lot of uncomfort in my regular life. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But ideally, you would have like 10 or 12 different strains in the same area, and you'd do like 100 plants
That sounds like it'd take a lot of time.
and then pick through them and then flip them into flower and then find your males and separate them. And we like to get our males, pick our males. A lot of people just chuck the males and they pick whatever one or whatnot, but we like to let our males express themselves as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But then you run into the issue of them pollinating your other plants if they're not separate, and then you'll have seeds that you don't want. And the number one thing that I've noticed when breeding is labeling is super important. Like if you're not on point with your labeling, you'll be like,
Mhm.
"Oh, what was this? Oh no, now I don't know." You know what I mean? And then you have to restart. But when we're looking for like our strain that we want, we're looking into cycle times, how much light the plant can endure, because the more light the better, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The more, and then you can give it CO2, which helps the plant grow more and absorb more light in a way, and the more light the plant gets, the more photosynthesis occurs and stuff, you know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
it's all very carefully done, and then once you get to a certain point in growing, you can go, okay, how does this little tweak here affect it? How does this little tweak here affect it? And then now systems are automated a lot. You know what I mean? Like if you look into like people that want to grow at home, it's so easy now to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Once you know
Well,
what you're doing.
I got a friend too, just gets auto flowers that I don't know a ton about auto flowers, but it seems like they flower quicker and you don't really have to do a whole lot.
So with autoflowers, there's ruderalis that's built into them, which is a type of cannabis that grows in extreme environments.
Okay.
So what happens is the plant never knows when to flower because the environment's extreme. So it just automatically goes into flower without a shift in the photo periods. So photo period just means like how much light and when.
Okay.
So typical photo periods in, like, say you got a plant that came from a desert. That's something that people don't really, like when you're first starting, that I didn't take into account was, okay, this plant, the original plant comes from like a volcano, and it's called Tapuki Thunder in New Zealand. That's a long lost strain that I got a hold of. It grows on a volcanic mountain.
Interesting.
So like if you take that and then you cross it with something in Alaska, now you've got
like
the two different
Manituska Thunderfuck.
Exact. Tapuki Thunderfuck is what it's called. I forgot that I was
Interesting.
working on that one. We got the Alaskan Thunderfuck crossing it with the Tapuki Thunder, and that's something that I didn't realize, was that the environments can be so different sometimes that it can change how like the timing of it changes and stuff. Because some places need more time to bud, some places need less. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So really finding a balance, and that's why it takes so long. But the more plants you have, the faster it is. So like ideally, you'd want to have like a lot of plants.
Do you always grow indoors?
So yeah, for the most part, I got a couple people that test things outdoors
Okay.
because I want a rugged plant too. You know what I mean? A lot of these newer strains that you get into, like a lot of the Zaza and the exotic strains, are grown indoors because they're a little more finicky.
You can usually
Because
control the environment better indoor as well, right?
yeah, and you end up with a better product in the end in the indoor because you
Yeah,
control more of
You
it.
control the water, the light,
Mhm.
the moisture.
Temperature,
Yeah.
But
humidity.
if you want to market towards new growers, which there's a lot of new growers right now, you want it to be easy for them. You know what I mean? And if someone, it's like trying to cook a dish by Gordon Ramsay. I'll compare it to that, like a high end dessert at one of his restaurants, rather than like making a cheesecake at home. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
like as a new grower, we want to make it as easy. We want to take the new stuff that exists now, like runts and stuff like that, and then bring it back to the old stuff and combine it, and then it will make it easier, more rugged plant. It's like, could we agree that humans years ago were more rugged and capable of handling things like
Mhm.
on a physical level? That our grandparents were probably pretty badass, strong motherfuckers, you know?
Mhm.
So like imagine if you could take grandpa, who was probably built jacked, you know what I mean, from back in the day,
Yeah, because a
and
lot of them used to
introduce
build
him
their own houses
to so and so's daughter down the block, and then they have a baby. It's just genetics, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it would be like trying to get the expression from those things and combine them with the new ones. So you got the flavor profile of the new stuff, but the growability of the old stuff. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And the new stuff, a lot of it's real fucking strong.
Yeah.
So that bringing it back to the old stuff kind of brings that level back down a little bit.
Mhm.
So that way it's more of a for me anyway, a fun time rather than panicking.
Well, I mean, shit. Back in like the 70s, I'm pretty sure like the high end weed in the 70s was only like 10-12% THC.
Right.
Where now your high end it's getting up to like 34-35% THC, which is pretty wild.
So here's the thing with that though. I don't trust any lab testing. I have yet to find one that's totally accurate, because I take our plant and have it tested, because that's what you do when you're breeding. You want it to be tested.
Mhm.
So I'd take our plant and have it tested at multiple different facilities,
and they all tell you something different.
and they all tell me something
My
different.
question is,
because
could each nugget have a different THC percentage? Like if there's more on one nugget than another, then
That's
you're
possible
always
too,
always
yeah.
going to get that.
your top nugs are going to have more
Mhm.
because they have more exposure to light.
Mhm.
And like I said earlier with the UVB thing, you know, well, obviously your goal is to have a real even canopy, so that way that you have as many top buds as possible. But like I was saying with the light, is that they'll create more crystals based on the exposure to that UVB light. So your top nugs might have better ratings than your bottom nugs. So you might send your top nug in to be tested, so that way
Mhm.
you can say this strain is
Mhm.
35% or whatever. And then, but there's limits in some states too where it can only go so
Mhm.
high. And then you have it so like, hey, you guys want your shit to rate better, slide us a little extra dough,
Yeah,
and we'll make it look good.
I definitely don't trust a
Because
lot
it's
of
not
the
regulated like that.
I
you know?
definitely don't trust a lot of the sticker shops THC percentages, where so many of these sticker shops have so many things labeled at like 29, 30, 32%. And
They
it's
could just
like,
be putting that out. Who's going to check?
nobody's checking. I think they're just writing that down for one. But like when we were in Colorado and Oregon, it was hard to find strains that were even above 28%. They were very far and few between. A lot of other people too, this is how people are suckers for buying those high THC percentages. The THC percentage isn't always indicative of the high you're going to get. Some of
Right.
it's also the other cannabinoids and the terpenes that
Terpenes
can add to the high and make the high different.
There's CBG, which
CBN.
is good for inflammation. There's CBN.
CBN helps you sleep. I
For
bought
sleep.
CBN gummies in the past, and they definitely helped me sleep.
There's the CBD for like the relaxation, and
Mhm.
then there's the THC, which is like the psychedelic feel.
Mhm.
So like that's why I like the idea of meds and branding it that way, because I can go meds sleep and have it be a higher CBN content. I can go meds, like, you know how like you go to the drugstore and you got stuff for headaches and that, you got
Yeah.
meds creativity might be like a sativa, like it'll be lines like that, you know what I mean? It might be a sativa where you take it and you're like, oh fuck.
Sorry, I'm only laughing. I don't know if you've ever seen the original How High with Redman and Method Man.
No, it's been a long time.
Oh yeah, in that movie, he's selling weed out of his apartment. He's got different weeds for different things. Like the one guy comes to him and he's got like a Jamaican accent and tells him his soldier isn't standing at attention anymore. And he's like, "Here, smoke some of this, and it'll get your soldier right back at attention for his erectile dysfunction."
Right, that's the kind of stuff I want to do. It's like, obviously that's a little, I probably won't be able to cure that, but
Be
Like-
interesting to find ways to create phenotypes that do help certain ailments, though.
yeah, like an inflammation for people with psoriasis or not POTS syndrome. I'm thinking about weed. Jobs syndrome,
Mm-hmm.
which is an autoimmune disease. Just like having different things that actually help too. Because like, we talked a little bit about the negatives of cannabis. Let's talk a little bit about the positives too here, is that,
Got any strains that help road rage?
yeah, a little higher in CBD maybe.
I gotta deal with that all night, man.
What would
I-
happen if you had 100% THC?
They have that.
They're
called
so
diamonds.
the highest I ever had, it was like 99%, and it was the weirdest dab I've ever done. And this one
It's
wasn't
like
a diamond.
rock, isn't it?
Well, no, this one came. It looked like cocaine. It was white powder.
Yeah.
It was just a powder. And
Cool.
the crazy thing is, like, there was no smell, there was no taste, and it was so smooth. I didn't even know I was getting any until I blew all the smoke out of my mouth. I was like, holy shit, I didn't know a dab could be that smooth. And honestly,
It's because there's no chlorophyll.
and
stuff
honestly,
that.
like if you're someone where weed makes you like extremely heavy or slow or lazy, that might be the route you want to go. I told several people. It was a friend of ours that went to Massachusetts and picked some up from a dispensary there and brought it back as a gift for me. It was shortly after my father had passed, and it was honestly perfect for daytime because I didn't feel tired or burnt out or anything. It calmed my mind down, and it was all just a head high. But I know that could probably make some people
that would make me freak
quite
out.
anxious and freak out. So
How much is a usual, like if somebody were to make their own dab, like what percentage would that be?
like a lot of dabs when we were out in Oregon, when you see like the yellow shatter and stuff like that, or golden shatter, a lot of times that's in like the mid 70 to low 80%
So
range.
that's a big difference.
But that also contains all the other cannabinoids like CBG, CBN, CBD, and it also has all the terpenes in it too, which is why it tastes so good. The 99% doesn't have any terpenes in it, which is why there was no taste to it at all, which was
So now
so strange.
now they're able to isolate terps too and add
Mhm.
them back into
Yep.
that. So that way, when you do that, you get the flavor
So it's like
profile.
Kool-Aid.
Yep, we had this.
And in Canada, real quick, I just want to say, because I'm talking to someone in Canada now, and they were telling me about how they have like strawberry flavored vapes and like melon flavored
Mhm.
cannabis vapes.
So-
and, like,
Also, when we were in Oregon, our friend that worked at the growery, he brought this little syringe home, and it had clear dabs in it. They were clear, but he said what you were just saying, how they isolated a terpene and extracted that. It was the terpene that gives it like the blueberry flavor.
yeah,
And I smoked this dab, and it tasted like I smoked a fucking blueberry. Is the weirdest
that's
weirdest
the
thing
difference
ever.
between
Yeah.
craft cannabis
Yep.
and like store bought fast-paced.
That's
growing
actually one of the
stuff.
things I dislike about a lot of the dab carts that are going around now is the added flavors. They either add too much terpenes or they're adding synthetic stuff that isn't even terpenes, and it's too I don't know, too flavory for me. I like the actual taste of weed. I want to taste those terpenes.
So
Yeah.
what's the price difference when you have just regular homegrown, run-of-the-mill weed, and then you have something that takes months, if not years, to get perfectly grown and it's got perfect flavors and
It's a lot cheaper now than it used to be.
Mhm.
Back in the day, for the stuff that Meds has right now, I would have been doing 500 an ounce back in the day.
So like the
And
trash,
now it's down to like 200 for the high end.
the trash stuff you're talking about, like the low end, there's sticker shops around here that are selling stickers for $60, and these $60 stickers get you a whole ounce of weed. Where back in the
it's
day,
up 10 times.
yeah, back in the day, like you'd be lucky to find an ounce for 200, 250, even lower quality.
Yeah.
I know before I got into
Yeah, everybody's got to compete.
I know before I got into selling weed, like it used to be, there was times it was like 300-400 an ounce, but then as it started becoming more abundant, more supply, the price went down, which is why I really wish, like, I don't want to see New York shut these sticker shops down. I want to see New York help these sticker shops get their actual dispensary licenses. You'd think they'd want more dispensaries so they could make more revenue on the tax, but if there's very few dispensaries and very few groweries, that's going to cause the price of the products to be extremely high, thus keeping people going to the sticker shops. Or if they shut down the sticker shops, it's going to create or open back up the black market. Now, if you allow more dispensaries and more groweries, so there's more product and the price is cheaper, the state will actually make a lot more revenue on the tax, because people will say, oh, I can go to a dispensary and get an eighth for $25. Like when we were in Oregon, we got outdoor strain of Blue Dream for $17.50 an eighth, and it was 26.5% THC. At the same place, they had an indoor strain of Blue Dream that was only 20% THC. Now, I'm sure it probably tasted better. It was a little smoother because it was indoor. But that was like $35 an eighth.
Mhm.
But even that isn't
But
too.
that's a normal.
Yeah, even that's
like a good price.
even that's not too bad of some top shelf shit back then.
Mhm.
Where like if you went to a dispensary in New York right now to get an eighth, you're probably looking at $50-$60 because the supply isn't that big. And that's why people are going to just keep going to the sticker shops.
So you're talking about through dispensaries and stuff.
Yeah, this was an actual dispensary out in Oregon.
So the reason that they're on these sticker shops, but a lot, is because they're having people claim that they're putting bad stuff into their stuff, and they want to regulate it, make sure no one's getting hurt. But
Which is
as
why
a
they should also
business
just help them
person-
get that license.
As a business person, like it wouldn't make sense to give your clientele something that's going to hurt them, because
Exactly.
you want them to return. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So, I mean, whether the allegations are true that or not is another story, but
Mhm.
it may be just a way to get their big wig buddies in that got all this money to put down and start their shops. You know, who
I
knows?
I
Some
am
of
a
these shops don't know where they're getting their stuff, or
No.
or rather they know where they're getting it, but they don't know what's in it.
a lot of
Right,
them.
that's the problem.
I have a slight issue with a lot of the dab pens going around. The
Yeah,
torch.
the pens.
the
I
torch
stay away
pens.
from those.
So I used to be all over those torch pens, and I guess I didn't like. I used to have to hit my inhaler multiple times a day.
It's because of
Sin-
vitamin E that they're putting.
Since I quit smoking weed altogether, I haven't had to hit my inhaler once. There was times, and it wasn't every torch pen I got, but there were sometimes I'd get a torch pen where I would take a hit, and then all of a sudden I'd feel like after I take the hit, I'd feel like I'm literally suffocating, like something's squeezing my lungs, and I can't get a deep breath.
Yeah, it's the vitamin E additive that they put in it for flavor and
Yeah,
stuff.
definitely
So
don't like that.
that's something that so everything has its positive and negatives, right? So
Mhm.
that's something that the dispensary would probably help get rid of. Is
Mhm.
like taking carts specifically, because you don't really know what the hell's going in them if they're bought off of whoever. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
They might be cutting it to make a little more
There
money.
was
or whatnot,
inconsistency
so-
with some of the torch pens too, where like sometimes I'd get one where I take one hit and I'm fucking ripped, and then another time I'd get one and it just seemed weak as hell, as if it was like Delta 8,
Right.
because I've had Delta 8 and it's like diet THC. But
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people who get real paranoid from regular THC say the Delta 8 was much better. that they
Mhm.
didn't feel as paranoid and still relaxed.
Yeah, that's something that I've done.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why, because when I was younger, I didn't really get paranoid like that. Maybe it's just,
You know, there's several other people too that I've talked to that they said when they got either closer to 30 or through their 30s, they all of a sudden a lot of them said they couldn't smoke sativas anymore and had to do indica because they'd get real anxious or paranoid. And then other people as well that just said, yeah, I just had to quit smoking because it just wasn't enjoyable anymore. I just too anxious from it.
yeah. I mean, so I remember like when I was younger, smoking purple though, and just feeling good.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that we put into the meds is we like our purples. We like our colors.
That purple's nice to look at too.
You seen some blue stuff? You remember Blue Night back in the day?
I don't.
It was like straight up blue, bud. Just I couldn't like you wouldn't believe it, but it looked like this color. So we're
Okay.
trying to find stuff that makes it real colorful because bag appeal is important. You know what I mean?
Prettiest purple weed I've ever seen still to this day was also out in Oregon, again at that place TJ's Organics, and it was chocolate kush. Had these really dark purple
Chocolate
buds, and on top of it was just so colorful to me because of the dark purple, but then had these super bright orange hairs, and it looked so beautiful.
Have you ever heard of Sirius Black? So these
don't
are
think
the
so.
strains that I got to try and get a hold of again because when they just as a memorabilia thing to do because I'm breeding.
Mhm.
Like that's the other thing. When you're breeding, you're gonna have a million ideas,
Mm-hmm.
a million of them. You're
Yeah,
never
and
gonna
you can't
see
try
them
them
all,
all. Yeah.
unless so like you know what I mean. So that's where it comes into play too. Is I've networked with other people that are also doing it, and I'm like, hey, do you got like room in your program for something like this? And if they're on board, then we collaborate. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, but Sirius Black was like literally black and orange. It was like Halloween.
Okay.
That was something
I wonder-
had when was younger.
I wonder if maybe they created that strain through light deprivation, because I've heard the light deprivation grows can make your bud a lot darker.
You mean like outdoor, like in
Like in
a
a
greenhouse?
shed.
I
Light
guess it's-
deprivation.
I've heard light deprivation is where it's just grown with a lot less light.
It's basically outdoor indoor.
Okay.
So it's like you get a little bit more control, but it's still outdoor. You know what I mean? So it has the bag appeal of an indoor because of how it looks, but it I don't know. Have you heard they're freeze drying cannabis too now?
I haven't heard that. What's the purpose of that?
It cures it quicker. So
Okay.
it's like
So you don't have to wait so long to keep burping the jar. And
yeah. So but meds we're doing longer cures. We believe in the old school.
Yeah, that's what my buddy at work is doing right now. He's got his
60-day minimum.
unicorn haze, and I can't remember the other one he's got, but
A lot of people rush the process with that too. So you might get like 30-day, but when you're doing small batches and you're really focused on quality, what you want is highest quality possible. So if I got to do a 60-day cure, that's what I'm gonna do.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You know
'cause
what
some
I
people
mean?
either want to
Mhm.
hurry it up and sell it, or they just want to smoke it.
well, lucky for you don't want to smoke your own stuff,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
you
so I
don't
have the
you don't have
patience.
that urge to be like, oh my god, I want
But
to try
my brother,
Got a passion.
he's like, come on,
it.
man.
Yeah, let me try some. I get it though, man. I'm when it comes to me enjoying weed, I like to shop with my nose. I'm a flavor guy. I almost like the flavor more than I do the high I'm gonna get. It's weird.
Yeah.
Where other people are like, oh no, I'm looking for a specific high. I'm like, I shop with my nose. I like a specific flavor.
And you know what they used to do back in the day to get the scents is take like lemon peels and throw it in their bags and
Okay.
sometimes you know what I mean.
So it's
Oh,
like
you remember
like they did it artificially.
back in the
instead
day.
of-
I want
back when before everything was like out in the open. as
I
it
want
is,
the
they'd
shit
be like,
that-
here, let's throw some lemons in this bag and let it zest for a while.
I want something that smells like someone dumped gasoline in my bag, or like someone captured a skunk and let the skunk spray in my bag.
Yeah. So, Gio he likes skunk too, so he got some of the original skunk, and that's bred in there too. We got like the lineage and stuff of what it all is, but Gio is the mastermind behind all the flavors. I'm more, like I said, I'm more the guy that's like, okay, I know a little bit about the science behind it and how plants grow and like
Mhm.
what to do and where and stuff. And he's more like, okay, well, fucking, I want this flavor and this flavor. So the next one we're working on is the PCP crossed with the banana clips, and then I got an apple blossom to cross with banana clips and the PCP, and what was the other one? Panama Red, which is a land race. So, like, you
Okay.
know what land race is? Like, I'm sure you probably do. Do you know?
I'm guessing it's something grown more inland, not near the
So,
ocean, or
land race back when it was
or
like
something that grew naturally.
naturally.
Okay.
So it's like you
Okay.
have to trek the earth to find it.
Mhm.
So Panama Red is, if I'm not mistaken, is one of them.
Okay.
And so with those, you have a wider gene expression too. So like, then it gets harder to isolate because you're like, okay, this is one of the land races from Panama. So you took it to a land race from Alaska and you combine them two. Now your gene pool is huge. You know what I mean? Because you've opened it up. But like with the new stuff, like because it's been bred into itself and so much, that's why a lot of these Zazas and stuff now are like very similar,
Mhm.
unless you get into the craft breeding side of cannabis.
Now, I've always wondered, like chemically, are they similar? Like between skunk spray and very skunky weed, why do they smell so similar? Like,
It's the, you can answer it.
I read something about this recently, and one of the terpenes that's in cannabis, there's something very similar in a skunk's spray.
okay, so it is like
So it's
close chemically.
very, very
close
close.
chemically. Yeah, because it's so the smell specifically is designed in the plant to help with pest, like a natural pesticide
Yeah, yeah.
of sorts. So like that's a thing that the plant has developed over time to avoid to what did you say it? How
It's
do
like
you
a
say it?
like a defense
deterrent.
like a defense mechanism. Like if it smells like skunk, certain insects or
Yeah, they're
something
not
might
gonna-
might
yeah,
not
they're
want to
not
go
gonna
near
eat
it.
Yeah.
One of the most interesting flavors I ever had in a strain of weed, it was back in 2013. It was called Rose Kush, and it literally tasted like I was smoking a rose. I've never had anything else like it since.
That was like a probably a small batch.
The other close thing I came, there was some kind of lavender or something that had like a slight, or maybe it was lilac, but that slight smell and flavor like that. But the rose one really stood out to me. Like I took a hit and I was like wow, it literally, like it still had that slight weed taste, but the the rose was like the major taste, and it's like, man, that's interesting.
I do like rose. I've had a rose flavored soda before.
Makes me
and it
wanna-
was super interesting.
makes me
Rose
wanna
water's
roll
pretty
up-
good, too.
Makes me want to roll up in a rose leaf. I've seen some of those videos online where people are rolling up in a
Gio's
rose
done
leaf.
that. He smokes out of apples.
Maybe
and
that's
everything.
why. I can see why, because that rose
I've seen people
flavor,
do that. Yeah, and
Gio's like,
use
fuck,
an
I
apple.
can't find my bowl. I got this apple.
that rose flavor was actually pretty enjoyable. It was nice and mellow and just, I don't know, pleasant.
Yeah. So next time we talk, I'll definitely have to bring Gio in to tell you.
Yeah,
more,
absolutely,
like,
man.
where
I'd love to
his
talk to him.
mind is with like the flavor profile, because like I said, I'm not. I'd like to get back to smoking someday, but to be honest, it kind of makes me tired a lot, and I don't get a whole lot done, or I'm paranoid, and it's just not fun unless I have CBD. Then I'm cool. It's like a whole different.
You
it's like
you
back
sound
when I
like
was a
you
kid.
might you sound like you might benefit from like a 50-50 strain.
Yeah,
They
balanced
they
strain.
had some out in Oregon that was like
Cheer
strains that were like 10-12 milligrams of THC, and then also 10-12 milligrams of CBD,
Yeah.
where it was like an even mixture.
It's called a balanced strain. There's one
Mhm.
called Cheerwine that I was looking into for.
I think there was one out there. I think it might have been called Harley Quinn, that was like a even balanced strain of the like low THC, high CBD, but they were like the same amount of milligrams. Because then of course they had the CBD dominant strains out there too that were like all CBD and like almost no
Like
THC.
Charlotte's Web, for example,
Hmm.
which is that's one of the coolest. I would love to on the podcast if you see this ever. I would love to collaborate with the people who created Charlotte's Web, because I don't know if you know the story behind that.
I don't.
There was a little girl. She was having like 300 or some seizures a day, and this breeder group came together to develop a strain that was super high in CBD, because it reduced her seizures like down to like 4 or 5 a day from 300 a day. So they named it after the little girl. So that would be really cool to collaborate with someone like that and really make an impact. Because that's why, like, if you're going to say cannabis is medicine, let's keep it medicine,
Mhm.
to a certain extent, because otherwise now you're just doing what everybody else does with everything eventually.
Mhm.
you know like just like LSD. Like, LSD is something that you should do with a reason most of the time.
Mhm.
um, DMT is it's not a party drug.
Oh, definitely not.
No
Definitely not.
psychedelic in my experience has been it's good when you're around the right people,
Mhm.
but it's not something that I would take and go.
It can definitely make friendships or the bond between friendships stronger if you're tripping with friends. But as far as like, yeah, going to a party or something like that, like I'm sure he won't mind me bringing him up on the podcast. Like Alan, him and I just went down by the river a couple times and just dropped and just hung out in nature. And we actually found like a secret river behind the river. We crossed the river to go climb. There was this giant tree that looked like it had been uprooted and carried down the river, and then it got stuck on this bank. And
It was
we
like the bridge to Terabithia.
so we crossed the river and we were climbing on this tree, and then we saw this little pathway back, and we went back, and there was like this other spot where the river had flowed back, and it was so beautiful back there.
Hmm.
Definitely an awesome experience.
So yeah, I kind of want to talk about my trip the one time. I've had what you would call a bad trip, I guess. One time I was at a festival, and I had some L, and this girl, um, earlier in the day she had told me she got lost in the woods the last time she was at a festival, um, after she did Molly, and she was on Molly, and I had dropped L, and we were at like watching the show, and then she was like, I was like, I'm blitzed right now, I don't know where my camp is, and she was like, I'll take you back to camp. And in my head, I was triggered by the fact that earlier she said she had gotten lost in the woods somewhere. And this was the only time that I've ever like left my real reality and was in somewhere different. I was following this girl and I was like, oh no, we're lost, we're lost, we're lost. And everything just got black around me. And then my brother was like, yo. And it was like a snap too. And I saw him and he was like, our camp's right there. And I was literally 10 feet from the camp, but like I was like, "Oh my god, I'm lost right now."
In your mind, you were somewhere else.
So that taught me though that our perception of things really can form our reality.
Mm-hmm.
That was the lesson in it. Because after that, I was fine. But then I took these things. I don't know what they said they were X. I don't think that. I don't know what was in these things. I was laying in my hammock, and you know how you go to festivals and everybody's got like their call outs, their camp call outs
Mhm.
tonight. Ours was butt scratcher here.
Butt scratcher.
Yeah, so we all did like, and then in my head I heard everybody doing it, and I'm like, these are pipes. I don't even feel nothing. Like, and then instantly after that started happening. It was like all the camps started doing their call outs, and I was like, oh my goodness. It was like everybody was talking at once, and then I laid there
Sensory
for a while.
overload.
Yeah, I laid there for a while, and I was like, okay, maybe these aren't pipes. Piperzine.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember going to the fire and just singing at the fire, and my dad's girlfriend at the time came over to the fire and was like, you sound like an angel. I was like, I just remember it was weird. But then I just kept singing, and then eventually like the fire started dying. For some reason I thought, if I let this fire go out, I'm dying with it. And so I sat there and I feathered the fire wood all night long and sang to the fire. It was the weirdest trip ever, but it was a good time.
Fire can be quite interesting to watch on a trip.
That is also,
I just love watching fire in general.
Mhm.
Stare at it for a half
So-
hour to an hour.
that time is also when I decided that I wanted to do hip hop.
Okay.
I was tripping on LSD, and I started talking in rhyme because I was like, I don't know what I'm going to be in my life. Well, everything I say seems to rhyme. And then I just started rhyming, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm a rapper. And then that stuck with me, and I've just rapped ever since. Like, that's basically the birth of the idea, was when I was tripping
Okay.
really hard.
So speaking of
I
rapping,
forgot about that until just now when I was talking about it.
speaking of rapping, did you want to kick a little freestyle for people before we wrap it up? Because we're actually coming up on 3 hours. This is by far
Is
our,
it really 3
this is by
hours?
far our longest podcast episode.
Ooh,
The longest we've done so far is an hour and a half. So
Yeah, I was gonna say we might have to. Wow.
yeah.
You might
was
have
gonna
to
say, what are
edit
we
it
hitting?
and chop it up.
Oh,
Yeah, I was
no,
gonna say,
I'll-
yeah, cut.
I'll
Take
put
the
the
good
whole
parts.
thing up.
Whole thing.
Whole thing. I love it.
Let's
I love it.
I thought we might have been hitting 2 hours.
Yeah, we're at 2 hours and 43 minutes.
We've been moving. It just flows naturally, man.
Yeah.
When you're with the right people and you got good stuff you want to talk about.
All right. So here we go.
You're the sweetest thing
Yeah, kind of do my thing.
I have
Oh,
ever
my name's Doc Z, by the way. If you forgot. Do it. Okay.
And to think that you are mine
All right.
alone. There is
Yo,
no
thank you for coming in. Now that I'm buzzing, I'm bringing your coffin. You know that I'm popping, I feel like a prophet. You know how I'm rocking. I'll wait for the comments to come in like comets. This shit is so common. I do it so often, I feel like a faucet. If they got a problem, tell them jump off it. Thank you for coming. Now that I'm buzzing, I'll bring in their coffin. You know that I'm popping, I feel like a prophet. You know how I'm rocking. I wait for the comments to come in like comets. This shit is so common. I do it so often. The flow like a faucet. Yo, sweets and buzzers starter pack. I'm the artifact, crafting all these arts and acts. The flow is frozen cold as Arctic caps. I'm quicker than the draw from the quiver on an archer's back. Simple as that. Switch it quick, I grip a chick. Slow dance to leave her heart intact. In fact, grip the bitch with both hands and watch her arch her back. I'm fly as charter, but I began with starter caps. Let's not get to that. Let's skip the brass and tacks. Listen, reversive, aversive, inversive, your purpose, impersonal worship, rehearsing disbursements like working a sermon. No speak with no serpents, you froggy than Kermit. The flow is so thermic. I rap like a turban, I master my circus, designing my circuits to work with discernment. If they hating, then I don't give a shit. They catch me in the six. I never been innocent, used to whip on the bricks. Now I flip the shit and get the shit. You know how it is. I had to do it different. Paint my picture so vivid. They mad when they don't fit in. I give them the cap and tell them I don't understand how y'all living inside of your mind. Take the time and rewind till I'm fine like wine. I find dime with 5 dimes until I find time to write these rhymes. That'll earn me that change. I'm yearning, it's strange when you learn how to tame a mind that was this deranged. I'm crazy like gnarls. I blind myself so it don't phase me. Ray Charles to the bullshit. Talk shit might end up with the full clip. I knock 'em out like my name was Pacquiao. What the fuck they talking about? The toxic is loud.
Hey.
What do you
That's
think?
pretty good.
I like it. I like it.
I just go in for a little bit.
I like it. It was fun. It was fun. I'm glad you got to do that. We'll definitely be sure to try to clip that and share it as like a YouTube short too. That's something we
Hell
got to
yeah.
start doing.
I
So-
Yeah,
appreciate it.
YouTube shorts. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, not a problem. So I think we'll start. We'll get ready to wrap this up here.
Yeah, my shoulders are like, man, you have been sitting for 3 hours.
Yeah, you finally start to feel it. So you guys don't forget to smash that like button,
Yeah.
share, subscribe. In the description when I upload this video, I'll make sure to have, or if look down in the description, you'll see Doc Z's, all of his social media pages, Meds Movement pages. So you can go click those and go check him out. Again, smash that like button, subscribe, share. I'm not as good as Russ is at saying that. He's got it down
Yeah.
pretty good.
yeah, he does.
He's good with that. I'm much better with the welcome, doing the intro. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Thank you, Xavier, aka Doc Z, for coming on, doing a little freestyle for us, talking to us about meds. I really love the idea of the movement. I'm really glad we got to talk to you about it. Hopefully other people jive with it. I think they will. So thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Do
So
the noise.
I just
Oh.
wanted to say one thing is that don't be scared to chase whatever you want in your life. I know sometimes it's hard for us, and we don't really know what's happening most of the time sometimes. But
Mhm.
once you're beyond that little, you give yourself that little push, or maybe ask a friend for a push. And if they're truly your friend, they're gonna tell you where you're messing up. They're gonna tell you how you're doing. They're gonna tell you what, and they'll give you what's what, and they'll give you a new perspective. You know what I mean? And just
Mhm.
remember that whatever pain you're feeling, you're not alone, and you can express that, especially as a man. We need to learn to express to one another that we're having a hard time, because that's like the fact that men are killing themselves at such high rates nowadays is crazy, because we're scared to be vulnerable. But I think that in my vulnerability, I've found strength in my relationships, and you guys can too. So remember to try to do your best to transmute your negative energy, turn it into something beautiful through whatever self-expression form you know, and live your life, build healthy, happy relationships and find your safe places. And they do exist. And yeah, meds, not mids.
Hell yeah, man. Do the noise one more time. I love it. I love the noise. All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week. Peace.
Later.
Peace.